How to stop giving a fuck what other people think and start living. Introduction. You are holding this book or listening to this audio for a reason. There is a voice inside your head, a constant nagging whisper that asks one question over and over again. What will they think? It is a heavy weight. It is a cage you have built around your own life, bar by invisible bar. This fear is the reason you did not wear that shirt you loved, the reason you did not post that picture, the reason you did not chase that dream, the reason you did not say no when every part of you screamed to. This book is the key to that cage. We are not going to fill these pages with complicated theories or dense academic language. We are going to talk about a simple, powerful, and liberating truth. Your life is your own, and it is time you finally started living it for yourself. This is not about becoming reckless or unkind. It is about becoming free. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The spotlight that is not there. Let's start with a feeling you know all too well. You are walking into a room, maybe a party or a new office, and you trip. Just a little stumble, not a full-on fall, but your body flushes with heat. Your heart thumps against your ribs. You quickly look around, a forced, awkward smile on your face, certain that every single person in that room just saw you, that they are all thinking, "Look at that clumsy idiot." For the next 10 minutes, you cannot shake the feeling. You are replaying the moment in your mind, the burning embarrassment sticking to you like tar. Or maybe it is a different scenario. You are in an important meeting, and you ask a question. The second the words leave your mouth, you are convinced it was a stupid question. You feel the silence in the room like a physical pressure. You can feel the judgment of your colleagues and your boss. You imagine them rolling their eyes, thinking you are incompetent. You spend the rest of the day and maybe even the night agonizing over it. This feeling, this intense conviction that you are the center of everyone's attention and usually their negative judgment, is one of the most powerful forces holding us back. We live our lives as if we are on a giant stage, with a harsh, unforgiving spotlight following our every move, highlighting every flaw, every mistake, every single imperfection for the entire world to see. The truth, however, is both stunningly simple and profoundly liberating. That spotlight does not exist. It is a figment of your own mind. You have built the stage, you are aiming the spotlight, and you are also the only one in the audience who truly cares. Psychologists have a name for this phenomenon. They call it the spotlight effect. It is the deep-seated, natural tendency to overestimate how much other people notice our appearance or our behavior. It feels real, it feels certain, but decades of research have shown us that it is a powerful illusion. One of the most famous studies that demonstrated this was conducted by a team of researchers at Cornell University. They took a group of college students and had them do something designed to be acutely embarrassing. They asked each student to walk into a room full of their peers while wearing a bright yellow t-shirt with a giant, comically uncool picture of the singer Barry Manilow on it. Before they went in, the researchers asked the students to predict what percentage of the people in the other room would notice and be able to identify the person on their shirt. On average, the students wearing the shirt predicted that about 50% or half the people in the room would notice their embarrassing attire. They walked in, sat down for a few moments, and then left. Afterward, the researchers asked the observers, the people who were already in the room, what they saw. The reality? Only about 20 to 25% of them even noticed the shirt. The effect was half as powerful as the person wearing the shirt believed it was. The intense spotlight they felt beaming down on them was, in reality, a dim, flickering bulb that most people did not even bother to look at. Think about what this means. The embarrassment, the anxiety, the self-consciousness that you feel is often doubled or even tripled in your own mind compared to the reality of the situation. That typo you made in a group email, the one you agonized over for an hour, most people probably scanned right over it. If they did notice, they forgot about it 2 seconds later because they were already worried about their own 150 emails. That time you stuttered during a presentation? You were convinced everyone thought you were a nervous wreck. In reality, they were probably thinking about what to have for lunch or whether they remembered to let the dog out. This illusion is rooted in a simple human reality. We are all the center of our own universe. This is not a judgment. It is a fact of consciousness. Your entire life experience, every thought, every feeling, every sensation happens inside your own head. Because your world revolves around you, you make the natural but incorrect assumption that the world of others also revolves around you. We project our own intense self-awareness onto everyone else, imagining they are tracking our lives with the same detail and focus that we do. But they are not. They cannot. They are too busy being the main character in their own story. In their movie, you are just a background actor, an extra who might walk through one or two scenes. And in your movie, they are the extras. Realizing this is one of the first most crucial steps toward freedom. You have been playing to an empty theater. There is another related illusion that works hand in hand with the spotlight effect. It is called the illusion of transparency. This is the belief that our internal states, our emotions and feelings, leak out and are obvious to everyone around us. When you are feeling intensely anxious, you believe everyone can see your heart pounding and your palms sweating. When you are trying to hide your dislike for someone's idea, you are sure your true feelings are written all over your face. When you are lying, even about something small, you are convinced you are as transparent as glass. But just like the spotlight, this too is a trick of the mind. People are surprisingly bad at reading our internal states. Researchers have tested this by having people lie and then asking observers to detect the lie. The observers are usually no better than chance at figuring it out. In other studies, they have had people give public speeches and then asked them to rate how nervous they appeared to the audience. The speakers consistently and dramatically overestimated how much their anxiety showed. They felt a storm of panic inside, but all the audience saw was a person giving a speech, maybe with a few minor jitters. Your inner world is yours alone. Your racing thoughts, your deep insecurities, your secret hopes, they are all private. This is not a lonely fact. It is a powerful one. It means you have a buffer between how you feel and what the world sees. It gives you the space to feel nervous without having to worry that everyone is judging you for it. It allows you to feel uncertain without the added pressure of thinking everyone sees you as weak. You have far more control over how you appear than you think you do. So how do we begin to dismantle this illusion in our daily lives? How do we turn off the imaginary spotlight? It is not enough to just know the theory, we have to put it into practice. Here are 3 actionable steps you can start taking today. First, use the reality check question. The next time you do something that triggers that hot flush of embarrassment or self-consciousness, stop, take a breath, and ask yourself this question. In 1 hour, will anyone, including me, still be thinking about this? What about in 1 day? What about in 1 week? The answer for 99% of our minor stumbles and social missteps is a resounding no. This simple question breaks the obsessive loop in your mind. It puts the event in its proper perspective. That awkward comment you made will be buried under thousands of other thoughts and events by tomorrow. Recognizing this shrinks the monster of embarrassment down to its true tiny size. Second, practice the empathy flip. When you walk into a room and feel that wave of anxiety, that feeling of being watched, consciously shift your focus. Instead of thinking, "What do they all think of me?" flip it. Start thinking about them. Look at the person in the corner who seems a little nervous and think, "I wonder what they are worried about today." Look at the person who seems confident and think, "I wonder what challenges they are facing that I cannot see." The moment you start extending empathy and curiosity outward, you stop directing judgment inward. You realize that every single person in that room is living a life as complex and fraught with their own worries as yours. They are the star of their own movie. They are worrying about their own spotlight. Shifting your focus from being the observed to being the observer is a powerful way to reclaim your mental energy. You are too busy being interested to be interesting. Third, become a data collector. Your brain currently believes that every small mistake is a catastrophe. It believes the spotlight is real. You need to provide it with new data that proves otherwise. You do this by running small, low-stakes experiments. Intentionally do something slightly out of the ordinary, something that would normally make you a little self-conscious, and observe the results. Wear a pair of brightly colored, mismatched socks to work. If anyone notices, they will likely smile or say nothing. The world will not end. Your career will not be over. Purposefully ask a question in a meeting that you think might be a little basic. See what happens. Most likely someone else was wondering the same thing, or the speaker will simply answer it without a second thought. Order a coffee in a slightly strange way. Hum a little tune while waiting in line at the grocery store. These are not acts of rebellion, they are scientific experiments. You are gathering evidence instance by instance that the consequences you fear are entirely in your head. Each time you do this and nothing bad happens, you're weakening the old belief and strengthening a new one. The belief that you are free to be yourself without constant scrutiny. You have spent years, maybe your whole life, believing in a spotlight that was never there. You have been limiting your choices, silencing your voice, and shrinking your life to avoid the judgment of an audience that was never even paying attention. Today, that can start to change. The knowledge that the spotlight is an illusion is your first key. You are not under a microscope. You are just a person in a world full of other people who are all far too busy with their own lives to obsess over yours. The stage is empty. The audience has gone home. It is just you. What do you want to do now that no one is watching? Chapter 2. Why your caveman brain cares so damn much. If turning off the spotlight was as simple as just knowing it is an illusion, this would be a very short book. But we all know it is not that easy. There is a reason the fear of what others think feels so deep, so visceral, so powerful. When you face potential rejection or disapproval, you do not just have a logical thought about it. You feel it in your gut. Your stomach might twist into a knot, your palms might get sweaty, your heart might feel like it is trying to beat its way out of your chest. This is not you being overly dramatic or weak. This is a profound and ancient biological response. To truly break free, we have to understand where this feeling comes from. You are not just fighting a bad habit, you are fighting millions of years of evolution. The problem lies with what we can call your caveman brain. Imagine your brain is a house. The front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is the modern renovated part of the house. It is where your logic, your reasoning, and your long-term planning live. It is the part of you that can read this book and understand that the spotlight effect is an illusion. But deep in the basement of that house, in the oldest, most primitive part of your brain, lives a caveman. This caveman does not understand social media or office politics or modern society. He operates on one simple, brutal principle: survive. And for millions of years, the single most important key to survival was being accepted by the tribe. Let's travel back in time 100,000 years. Imagine yourself living on the open savanna. Your world is filled with real, immediate dangers: saber-toothed tigers, rival tribes, starvation, disease. You are not the strongest, fastest, or most fearsome animal out there. Your one great evolutionary advantage is your ability to cooperate. Your survival depends entirely on your small tribe of about 50 to 150 people. The tribe provides protection. A group can fight off a predator that a single person cannot. The tribe provides food. Hunters share their catch and gatherers share their findings. The tribe provides childcare, support when you are sick, and warmth on a cold night. The tribe is life. Now, what was the single greatest threat in this world? It was not just the tiger in the bushes. It was the threat of being cast out from the tribe. Social rejection was not an emotional inconvenience. It was a death sentence. To be ostracized meant facing all those dangers alone. No food, no protection, no help. You would not last long. Your brain, therefore, evolved a powerful, highly sensitive alarm system to prevent this from ever happening. This alarm system is the intense, gut-wrenching fear of other people's negative judgment. It was designed to make you constantly monitor your social standing. Are people happy with me? Am I contributing enough? Do they like me? Am I fitting in? These were not questions of vanity. They were questions of life and death. The part of your brain responsible for this, the limbic system, is ancient and powerful. It learned to equate social disapproval with mortal danger. And here is the crucial part, that ancient wiring is still running the show today. Your brain has not had a significant hardware upgrade in at least 50,000 years. You are walking around in a world of smartphones, corporate ladders, and global networks, but you are running on software designed for a prehistoric tribe. This mismatch is the source of so much of our modern anxiety. When your boss gives you a critical look in a meeting, your logical brain might say, "Okay, I need to improve that part of the report." But your caveman brain, deep in the basement, starts screaming. It does not see a boss. It sees a tribal leader showing disapproval. It does not hear constructive feedback. It hears a threat of exile. The alarm bells go off, flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases. You feel that pit in your stomach. Your body is preparing to face a life or death threat, because for millions of years, that is exactly what this was. Think about modern situations through this lens. Why does getting unfriended or unfollowed on social media sting so much, even when it is by someone you barely know? Because your caveman brain interprets it as a member of the tribe turning their back on you. Why does the thought of public speaking terrify so many people? You are standing alone in front of a group, being silently judged by dozens or hundreds of faces. To your ancient wiring, this is the ultimate high-risk scenario, a tribunal that will decide if you are worthy of staying in the tribe. Why does gossip feel so awful? It is the tribe talking about you behind your back, a classic sign that your social standing is in jeopardy. Modern neuroscience has even confirmed this powerful link. Researchers like Naomi Eisenberger at the University of California, Los Angeles have put people in brain scanners and had them play a simple computer game where they are tossed a ball with two other players. Then the other two players, who are actually just part of the program, suddenly stop throwing the ball to the participant. They are left out. The researchers found that this experience of social exclusion activated the very same part of the brain that lights up when you experience physical pain, a region called the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. This is revolutionary. The saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me," is a complete lie. From your brain's perspective, social pain and physical pain are almost indistinguishable. A harsh criticism can feel like a punch in the gut, because neurologically speaking, it almost is. This knowledge is not meant to make you feel helpless, a victim of your own biology. It is meant to do the exact opposite. It is meant to give you power through understanding. The first step to taming an animal is to understand its nature. The fear you feel is not a personal failing. It is not evidence that you are weak or broken. It is evidence that you are a perfectly functioning human whose survival hardware is working exactly as it was designed to. You are not crazy for feeling this way. You are normal. The problem is that the alarm system is now outdated. It is too sensitive for our modern world. It is like having a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. It is doing its job, but it is misinterpreting the level of threat. Social rejection today is not a death sentence. Getting a negative comment online will not get you eaten by a lion. Being judged by a stranger at the grocery store has zero impact on your ability to survive and thrive. Your life is not in danger, but you need to teach this to your caveman brain. So, how do you do that? You cannot just perform surgery and remove the old wiring, but you can learn to manage it. You can become the wise modern human who can calm the frantic caveman in the basement. Here are 3 practical techniques to do just that. First, give the caveman a name. This might sound silly, but it is a powerful psychological technique of externalization. When you feel that surge of social anxiety, instead of thinking, "I am so scared," create a little bit of distance by saying, "Oh, that's just Steve the caveman freaking out again," or whatever name you choose. Winston, Frank, Barbara. By giving the fear a name and a persona, you separate it from your core identity. It is not you that is panicking. It is this ancient, primitive part of your brain that is reacting. This simple act of naming creates a space between the stimulus and your response. In that space, you have the power to choose how you want to act, rather than just reacting on instinct. Second, thank your brain. This is another technique that seems counterintuitive, but is incredibly effective. When the fear and anxiety rise up, do not try to fight it or push it away. Whatever you resist persists. Fighting the feeling just tells your brain that the threat is real and that you need to be even more scared. Instead, turn toward the feeling with acceptance. Silently say to yourself, "Thank you, brain, thank you for trying to keep me safe. I know you are sounding this alarm because you think we are in danger and you are trying to protect me." This act of gratitude calms the nervous system. You are acknowledging the signal without agreeing with its catastrophic interpretation. You are treating your brain like a well-intentioned but overly anxious friend, rather than an enemy to be defeated. Third, consciously update the software with a reality check. After you have named the fear and thanked your brain, it is time for your modern, logical mind to step in and gently correct the record. You have to talk to your caveman brain like a patient adult, explaining the modern world to a confused time traveler. You can say to yourself, "I understand you think this is a life or death situation, but let's look at the facts. This is a job interview, not a tribal council that will banish me to the wilderness. If I do not get this job, I will be disappointed, but I will be okay. I will find another one. My life is not in danger." Or, "This is a first date. If they do not like me, it does not mean I am unlovable. It just means we are not a match. There are billions of other people on this planet. I am safe." You are actively using your prefrontal cortex to soothe your limbic system. You are providing the new data, the updated information that the old wiring so desperately needs. You are a product of millions of years of evolution, and that is a magnificent thing. That ancient drive to connect and belong is what allows us to love, to build families, to create communities. But you are no longer a slave to its most primitive fears. Understanding your caveman brain is the key to mastering it. It is not about eliminating the fear. The alarm will likely always be there. It is about changing your relationship to it. You can learn to hear the alarm, thank it for its service, and then calmly and confidently choose to live your life anyway. You are the evolved human in the room, capable of seeing the world for what it is today, not what it was 100,000 years ago. The danger has passed. The tribe is no longer a tiny band of hunters. It is a vast, diverse world full of billions of people. You will find your place. You are safe now. You are free. Chapter 3. The Ghosts of the Playground. In the last chapter, we traveled deep into our shared past, into the prehistoric savannah, to understand the ancient biological wiring that makes us so desperately afraid of what others think. We met the caveman in our brain, the part of us that equates social rejection with a death sentence. That is the hardware, the fundamental operating system we are all born with. But that is only half of the story. If evolution gave us the gun, our own personal history is what taught us where to aim it. The other half of this prison is not built from biology, but from biography. It is constructed memory by memory, experience by experience, from the day we were born. The fears we carry today are not just the echoes of ancient ancestors. They are the ghosts of our younger selves. They are the ghosts of the playground, the classroom, and the family dinner table. And they are haunting your adult life, whispering the same old questions you learned to ask as a child. Am I good enough? Do they like me? Am I doing it right? To truly break free, we must turn and face these ghosts. We must understand how we were trained, conditioned, and programmed to outsource our sense of self-worth to the people around us. This programming begins in the most important and influential place of all, our home. As a baby, your need for attachment to a caregiver is not just an emotional want. It is an absolute necessity for survival. A baby cannot feed itself, protect itself, or soothe itself. It relies entirely on a parent or guardian for everything. In this state of total dependence, the caregiver's approval is the entire world. A smile, a gentle touch, a soothing voice from a parent signals safety, love, and security. It means you are safe. I will care for you. You belong. A frown, a harsh tone, or a lack of response, on the other hand, signals danger. It creates a primal anxiety in a child's nervous system. This is a natural, healthy, and necessary part of human development. It is how we form bonds. The problem arises when this natural system of connection slowly morphs into a system of performance and transaction. It happens subtly, often with the best of intentions. It starts with the simple words every child learns to crave: good boy or good girl. When you are quiet in the restaurant, you are a good girl. When you share your toy, you are a good boy. When you finish your vegetables, when you get a good grade on your spelling test, when you clean your room without being asked, you receive a deposit of praise, affection, and approval. This feels wonderful. It feels like safety. It feels like love. And so, like a little scientist, you start to figure out the formula. Doing these specific things gets me the positive response I need to feel secure. Conversely, when you spill your juice, you are bad. When you have a tantrum because you are tired and overwhelmed, you are being naughty. When you track mud into the house, when you talk back, when you fail the math test, that warm glow of approval is withdrawn. It might be replaced with a scolding, a punishment, or perhaps something even more confusing for a child, the cold silence of disappointment. This also feels terrible. It feels like danger. It feels like a withdrawal of love. So you learn the other side of the formula. Doing these things gets me a negative response that I must avoid at all costs. Without anyone ever saying it out loud, the lesson is programmed into you. My value is conditional. My worth is not inherent. It is something I must earn, day by day, action by action. Love and safety are not a guarantee. They are a reward for correct performance. You become what psychologists sometimes call a praise junkie. You develop an external locus of control, meaning you look outside of yourself for validation, for permission, for a sense of whether you are okay. The question is no longer, what do I want? Or, what feels right to me? It becomes, what do they want from me? What must I do to get their approval? This dynamic is shaped by the specific environment you grew up in. Consider the home where achievement was the highest currency. Your parents might have been loving, but their most enthusiastic praise was reserved for your report card, your soccer trophy, your piano recital. You learned that love and attention were directly tied to your accomplishments, so you became a high achiever. You worked tirelessly, not necessarily for the joy of the activity, but for the validation that came at the end. As an adult, you might find yourself to be a workaholic, unable to relax, constantly chasing the next promotion, the next goal, the next accolade. You feel a profound sense of emptiness when you are not actively achieving, because your childhood ghost whispers that if you are not winning, you are worthless. Or perhaps you grew up in a home with a parent who was very critical or had a short temper. You learned to walk on eggshells. You became a hypervigilant child, constantly scanning the emotional temperature of the room, trying to anticipate the needs and moods of others to avoid an outburst. You learn to suppress your own needs, your own voice, your own desires, because they might be the thing that sets off the explosion. As an adult, this ghost turns you into a chronic people pleaser. You find it almost impossible to say no. You are terrified of conflict. You feel responsible for the emotional state of everyone around you, from your partner to your boss to a random stranger. You contort yourself into a pretzel to keep everyone happy, because your inner child believes that is the only way to stay safe. Maybe you grew up as the good child in a family with a more difficult sibling, one who took up a lot of parental energy. You saw the stress they caused, and you made a subconscious decision. I will be the easy one. I will not cause any trouble. You became responsible, mature beyond your years, and you never asked for much. Your identity became fused with being helpful and low maintenance. As an adult, this ghost makes it hard for you to ask for help. You feel guilty for having needs. You take on far too much, burning yourself out, because your programming tells you that your value lies in being the one who never needs anything from anyone else. These are just a few examples. The specific flavor of your conditioning is unique to you, but the underlying mechanism is the same. We developed survival strategies as children, ways of being that would maximize our sense of safety and belonging. And now, as adults, we are still running these same outdated programs. The threat is gone. Your survival no longer depends on getting your parents' approval for every little thing. But the ghost is still at the controls, making you act out these old patterns in your relationships, your career, and your inner life. To begin to exorcise these ghosts, you must first be able to see them clearly. You need to become an archaeologist of your own past, digging up the old beliefs that are buried just beneath the surface of your conscious mind. I want you to find some quiet time. Take a piece of paper or open a new document and do an exercise I call mapping your approval blueprint. We are going to gently and curiously ask some questions of your past. There is no judgment here, only observation. First, write down the name of the primary caregiver whose approval you craved the most as a child. It might be your mother, your father, a grandparent, or another guardian. Now, under their name, answer these questions as honestly as you can. 1. What specific things did you do that earned you praise, smiles, or affection from this person? Be as specific as possible. Was it getting good grades, playing quietly, being funny, helping with chores, winning at sports, looking pretty? 2. What specific things did you do that earned you scolding, punishment, or their silent disappointment? Again, be specific. Was it making a mess? Being too loud? Expressing anger or sadness? Questioning their authority? Getting a bad grade? 3. What were the unspoken rules of the house? What topics were you not supposed to talk about? What emotions were not welcome? Were you supposed to be seen and not heard? Was it okay to cry? 4. When you felt sad, scared, or angry as a child, what usually happened? Were you comforted? Were you told to stop crying? Were you sent to your room? Did you learn to hide these feelings? 5. Now, look at your lists. How do these exact same patterns show up in your life today? Do you still work tirelessly to get that good grade from your boss? Do you still hide your anger or sadness for fear of being a burden? Do you still feel a jolt of anxiety when you make a small mistake, just like you did when you spilled your juice? This exercise can be emotional, but it is profoundly illuminating. It shows you that your current anxieties are not random. They are learned responses. They are the ghosts of your past, and by seeing them, by calling them by their name, you begin to take away their power. You realize, oh, this fear I have of speaking up in a meeting is not really about my boss. It is the echo of my fear of being scolded by my father. Or, this compulsive need I have to make everyone like me is not about my friends. It is the ghost of the little girl who just wanted her mother to smile at her. This awareness creates a crucial separation. It allows you to see that the feeling is old and the present moment is new. Just as we started to learn the rules of approval at home, our training was immediately reinforced and magnified when we entered the next great institution of our lives, school. If your family home was the small local factory for producing an approval-seeking mindset, the school system was the massive, industrial-scale factory. The entire structure of traditional education, from kindergarten to college, is a giant sorting machine built on a foundation of external validation. Think about it. From the moment you enter a classroom, you are taught to look outside of yourself for the answers. The teacher has the knowledge, and your job is to absorb it and repeat it back correctly. Your worth as a student is almost immediately quantified into a series of external metrics. You get stickers on your chart. You get a letter grade on your paper. You get on the honor roll. You get a gold star for good behavior. The entire system is designed to make you perform for a reward. The motivation is not meant to be intrinsic, coming from your own curiosity or the joy of learning. The motivation is extrinsic, to get the grade, to please the teacher, to beat your classmates. School is where we learn the art of social comparison in its most brutal form. Your test score is not just a measure of your understanding, it is a measure of your standing relative to everyone else in the room. The grades are posted on the wall, or the teacher reads them out loud. You immediately know if you are at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom. You are ranked, sorted, and labeled. You are smart, average, or struggling. This teaches us a terrible lesson, that our value is not absolute but relative. It only matters in comparison to others. This is a game you can never truly win, because there will always be someone with a better grade, a higher score, a more impressive achievement. This is the seed of the comparison anxiety that runs rampant in our adult lives, the constant nagging feeling that we are not keeping up with our peers. Furthermore, the school system fundamentally trains us to be terrified of being wrong. In a typical classroom, what happens when you raise your hand and give the wrong answer? The other kids might snicker, the teacher corrects you, you feel a hot flush of shame. You learn very quickly that the safest strategy is to keep your mouth shut unless you are 100% sure you are correct. This kills curiosity. It punishes experimentation. It teaches you that mistakes are not valuable learning opportunities, but shameful failures to be avoided at all costs. Is it any wonder, then, that as an adult you are terrified to speak up in a meeting? You are afraid of asking a stupid question. You are reluctant to share a creative idea for fear that it will be shot down. You are running the old classroom programming. Your boss has become your new teacher. Your colleagues have become your classmates, and the conference room has become the classroom. You are still that 7-year-old child, afraid of the shame of giving the wrong answer. You are so busy trying to look smart that you sacrifice the opportunity to actually learn, to contribute, and to be creative. We need to consciously decommission this inner student who is still living by the rules of the classroom. We need a graduation ceremony for our minds. Here is how you can begin to do this. First, you must intentionally reframe the meaning of mistakes. Start treating your life and your career more like a laboratory than a final exam. In a lab, a failed experiment is not a failure. It is data. It is information that tells you what does not work, which moves you closer to what does. The next time you make a mistake at work or in your personal life, I want you to resist the urge to fall into shame. Instead, I want you to get curious. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is the data point here? This shifts you from the mindset of a judge student to the mindset of a curious scientist. Second, start rewarding your own effort instead of waiting for an external reward for the outcome. In school, you only got the A if you got the answers right. In life, you need to start giving yourself an A for courage. Did you speak up in that meeting, even though your voice was shaking? A plus. Did you try that new hobby you were interested in, even though you were terrible at it at first? A plus. Did you set a boundary with a difficult family member, even though it was uncomfortable? A plus. You have to become your own teacher, one who grades on bravery, not on perfection. This is how you shift your motivation from being extrinsic to intrinsic. The reward is not the applause from the outside. The reward is the feeling of pride that comes from honoring yourself. The final piece of this conditioning, the one that combines our biological fears with our learned anxieties, takes place on the playground. While our parents and teachers were training us in the formal rules of approval, our peers were teaching us the brutal, unspoken rules of social survival. The playground, the school hallway, the cafeteria, these were our first true tribal environments outside the family. And in these tribes, the need to fit in was everything. This is where your caveman brain and your learned need for validation collide in a perfect storm. Your biology is screaming at you that being cast out from the group is a death sentence. At the same time, you are surrounded by a chaotic, rapidly shifting social system of cliques, trends, and unspoken hierarchies. To survive, you learn to become a chameleon. You develop what we can call a social mask. This is the persona you put on to be acceptable to the group. You start to hide the parts of yourself that you suspect might lead to ridicule or rejection. Maybe you secretly loved reading fantasy novels, but the popular kids thought that was nerdy, so you hid your books and pretended you were only interested in sports. Maybe you loved a certain kind of music, but your friends made fun of it, so you changed your playlist and learned the words to the songs they liked. You learned to laugh at jokes you did not find funny. You learned to suppress your own opinions and adopt the opinions of the group leader. You wore the right brand of jeans, used the right slang, and feigned interest in the right things, all in a desperate bid to belong. Each time you put on this mask, you sent a message to yourself. The real me is not acceptable. The real me is flawed, weird, and unlovable. This part of me must be hidden away to survive. This is a profound act of self-abandonment. You are trading your authenticity for approval. The temporary safety you gain by fitting in comes at a tremendous long-term cost. You lose touch with who you actually are. This pattern, of course, does not end when you leave the playground. It becomes a reflex. As an adult, the mask just gets more sophisticated. You wear one mask at work, the one that is professional, agreeable, and never questions the boss. You wear another mask with your in-laws, the one that is polite and avoids all controversial topics. You might even wear a mask with your friends, pretending to be more successful, more adventurous, or more carefree than you actually are. You might change your personality, your interests, and your values to be more attractive to a romantic partner. You spend so much time and energy managing these different masks that you forget what your own face looks like underneath. The deep fear is that if you were to take off the mask, if you were to show people who you truly are with all your quirks, insecurities, and unconventional opinions, they would all run screaming. The ghost of the playground whispers, if they find out you are a nerd, they will abandon you. The ghost of the classroom whispers, if they find out you do not know the answer, they will think you are stupid. The ghost of your childhood home whispers, if you are not a good and helpful boy, they will not love you. Breaking free means daring to take off the mask, piece by piece. It means running the experiment that your inner child was too terrified to run, the experiment of being authentic. You can start with a social mask audit. Again, take out that piece of paper. Create 3 columns: work, family, and friends. In each column, I want you to answer the question: what parts of myself do I hide in this setting? What opinions do I suppress? What interest do I not talk about? What emotions do I pretend not to feel? And then, the most important question for each one: what am I afraid would happen if I showed this part of myself? Look at your answers. You will likely see the same core fears appearing over and over again. The fear of being rejected, the fear of being seen as stupid, the fear of being a burden. These are the ghosts. Now it is time to challenge them. I want you to choose one very small, very low-stakes piece of your mask to take off this week. It could be mentioning to a colleague that you love fantasy novels. It could be admitting to a friend that you are feeling tired and do not want to go out instead of making up a fake excuse. It could be wearing an item of clothing that you love, but that you normally think is too weird. Start small, start safe, and just like our experiments with the spotlight effect, gather the data. See what actually happens. You will find that in 99% of cases, the catastrophic rejection you fear simply does not materialize. Someone might say, "Oh, I love that author too," or "No problem, let's hang out next week." The world does not end. In fact, it gets a little bit bigger and a little more real. The process of healing these old wounds and quieting these ghosts is the process of reparenting yourself. It is about learning to give yourself the unconditional approval that you may not have received from your parents, your teachers, or your peers. It is about becoming your own source of validation. This is the ultimate how. It is a practice, and it has 4 main steps. First is awareness. You must become a mindful observer of your own thoughts and behaviors. Catch yourself in the act of seeking approval. Notice when you are about to say yes when you mean no. Notice when you are about to suppress an opinion. Notice when you feel that familiar pang of anxiety about what someone thinks. Just notice, without judgment. Second is interrogation. When you catch yourself, ask the question, whose voice is this? Whose script am I reading from? Is this the ghost of my mother wanting me to be a good girl? Is this the ghost of my 5th grade teacher wanting me to have the right answer? Is this the ghost of the popular kids on the playground? By identifying the source of the voice, you externalize it. You see that it is an old recording, not a present-day truth. Third is compassion. This step is crucial. Do not get angry at yourself for running these old programs. That is just another form of self-judgment. Instead, offer a moment of compassion to the younger version of you who created this strategy to survive. You can say to yourself, "I understand why you learned to do that. You were just a kid trying to feel safe. Thank you for protecting me back then." You are honoring the ghost, acknowledging its purpose before you help it find peace. Fourth is replacement. This is where you actively rewrite the script. You offer yourself a new internal and validating message. The old script might be, "I must get everyone to like me." The new script is, "I approve of myself. It is okay if some people do not like me." The old script might be, "I must not make a mistake." The new script is, "My worth is not determined by my performance. Mistakes are how I learn." The old script is, "I must not be a burden." The new script is, "My needs are valid. It is okay to ask for help." You say this to yourself, consciously and repeatedly. You are programming a new belief system, one based on intrinsic worth, not external validation. This is not a quick fix. You are unwinding decades of deep conditioning. There will be days when the ghosts feel very real and very loud. But with this practice of awareness, interrogation, compassion, and replacement, you will begin to change. The ghosts will start to lose their power. Their whispers will become fainter. You will start to trust your own voice more than the echoes of the past. You will take off the masks and find that you can still breathe better than before. You will stop performing and start living. The playground is long gone. The classroom is dismissed. You are the adult in the room now. You get to make the rules. Chapter 4. The Digital Colosseum. How Social Media Fuels the Fire. We have journeyed into our biology and our biography. We have seen how our ancient caveman brain makes us terrified of rejection, and how the ghosts of our childhood conditioned us to seek approval from others. For most of human history, these forces, while powerful, were confined to our immediate physical reality, our family, our village, our school, our workplace. Your performance was judged by a limited number of people. The they in what will they think was a finite and knowable group. But in the last 15 years, a new force has entered our lives, one that has taken these ancient fears and learned anxieties and put them on a global stage, amplified them 1,000,000 times over, and placed them directly into the palm of our hands. I'm talking, of course, about social media. If your childhood was the playground, social media is the Colosseum. It is a vast, digital arena where we are simultaneously the gladiator on the sand, fighting for our survival in the form of likes, shares, and follows, and also a member of the crowd on the bleachers, passing judgment on everyone else with a flick of our thumb. It is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week performance, with no intermission and no closing time. It is a machine that has been expertly designed to prey upon the very vulnerabilities we have been discussing. It has become the single greatest engine for caring what other people think that humanity has ever invented. To be free in the modern world, we must understand how this machine works, how it manipulates our psychology, and how we can reclaim our minds from its grasp. The first thing you must understand is that your struggle with social media is not a personal failing. You are not weak or lacking in willpower because you find yourself compulsively checking your phone. You are not a narcissist just because you feel a jolt of pleasure when a post does well. You are a human being with a normal human brain, and you are going up against a system that has been deliberately engineered by thousands of the brightest minds in the world to be as addictive as possible. The goal of these platforms is not to help you connect in a meaningful way or to make you happy. The goal is to capture and hold as much of your attention as possible, because your attention is the product they sell to advertisers. And the most effective way to capture your attention is to hijack the reward and threat systems of your brain. They do this primarily through a principle known as intermittent variable rewards. This concept was famously demonstrated by the psychologist B.F. Skinner in the mid-20th century. He put pigeons in a box with a little lever. In one version of the experiment, every time the pigeon pecked the lever, it got a small food pellet. The pigeon learned this quickly and would peck when it was hungry. But then Skinner changed the rules. He made the food pellet dispense randomly. Sometimes the pigeon would peck and get nothing. Sometimes it would peck and get one pellet. Sometimes it would peck and get a whole handful of pellets. The pigeon had no idea when the reward was coming. What happened? The pigeons became obsessed. They would peck the lever compulsively, constantly unable to stop. This randomness, this unpredictability, is the most powerful driver of addictive behavior known to psychology. Now think about your phone. You post a photo on Instagram. You do not know if you will get 1 like, 10 likes, or 100 likes. You do not know if you will get a comment or when it will come. Each notification, each little red circle, is a potential food pellet for your brain. It is a hit of social approval. The pull to refresh feature on your feed is the modern-day equivalent of Skinner's lever. You pull it down, and you do not know what you will get. Maybe it is a boring post from your aunt. Maybe it is an amazing photo from a friend. Maybe it is a direct message from someone you admire. Maybe it is a new like on your own post. This slot machine dynamic is not an accident. It is the core design principle. Your brain's dopamine system, the part that deals with wanting and seeking, goes into overdrive. It gets hooked on the possibility of a reward, and it drives you to check and check and check again. Every single feature is meticulously crafted to exploit your psychology. The infinite scroll means there is no natural stopping point, unlike a newspaper or a magazine that has a final page. You can just keep scrolling forever, looking for the next hit. Push notifications are a deliberate interruption, an electronic tap on the shoulder, designed to pull your attention away from whatever you are doing in the real world and drag you back into the digital Colosseum. Features like stories that disappear after 24 hours are engineered to create FOMO, the fear of missing out. Your caveman brain interprets this as a threat. If I do not watch this now, I might miss crucial information about the tribe, and my social standing could be at risk. It is a constant, low-grade state of emergency. The algorithms that decide what you see are not designed to show you what is true or what is good for you, or what will make you feel content. They are designed to show you what will keep you on the platform the longest, and what keeps us engaged. Strong emotion, Content that makes us feel outrage, envy, anger, or anxiety is far more engaging than content that makes us feel calm and peaceful. The system learns what triggers you and then feeds you a steady diet of it. You are being emotionally manipulated for profit, and one of the most common and powerful emotions it manipulates is the feeling of not being good enough. This leads us to the second devastating effect of the digital Colosseum. It is a finely tuned comparison machine. President Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." If that is true, then social media is the most sophisticated joy theft device ever created. It works by presenting you with a constant, endless stream of other people's curated highlight reels. You are sitting on your couch on a Tuesday night, feeling bored and a little lonely, and you open your phone. In the span of 30 seconds, you see a friend's engagement photos, a former colleague's promotion announcement on LinkedIn, another friend's stunning vacation pictures from Italy, and a fitness influencer's perfectly toned body. Your messy, mundane, real-life behind-the-scenes footage is being directly compared with everyone else's polished and edited movie trailer. Your logical brain knows this is not the full picture. It knows the couple in the engagement photos were probably arguing about wedding costs just an hour before. It knows the colleague with the promotion is likely working 80-hour weeks and is completely burnt out. It knows the vacation to Italy cost a fortune and involved a lost suitcase and a terrible sunburn. It knows the fitness influencer's body is the result of a brutal diet, 4 hours in the gym every day, perfect lighting, and probably a little photo editing. Your logical brain knows all this, but your emotional brain, your caveman brain, does not care. It just sees threat after threat. It sees evidence that you are being left behind by the tribe. It whispers, "They are more successful than you. They are happier than you. They are more attractive than you. They are living a better life than you. You are failing." Psychologists talk about two kinds of social comparison. There is downward social comparison, where we compare ourselves to people we perceive as being worse off than us. This can provide a temporary and rather hollow boost to our ego, but the algorithms do not usually feed us this. They have learned that what really hooks us is upward social comparison, comparing ourselves to people who seem to have more, do more, and be more. This is a recipe for chronic dissatisfaction. Study after study has shown a direct correlation between the amount of time spent on social media and increased rates of depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem, especially in young people. We are constantly measuring our own worth against an impossible fabricated standard, and we always come up short. To fight back against this joy theft machine, you must become an active and critical consumer, not a passive one. You need to develop a mental reality filter. The next time you are scrolling and you feel that familiar pang of envy or inadequacy, I want you to stop, look at the post, and consciously, deliberately, list 3 things that are likely happening behind the scenes. 3 pieces of the real story that are not in the picture. For the perfect family photo at the beach, the filter is 1. The kids were probably screaming and fighting 2 minutes before this was taken. 2. They are covered in sand and will track it all through the car. 3. The parents are exhausted and just want a moment of peace. For the friend who just ran a marathon. 1. They had to wake up at 5 in the morning for months to train. 2. They probably have blisters all over their feet. 3. They sacrificed a lot of social time to achieve this. This is not about being cynical or taking away from their achievement. It is about reminding your brain of the reality of effort, messiness, and trade-offs that are part of every single human life. It breaks the illusion of perfection and brings the image back down to earth. It disarms the comparison bomb before it can explode in your mind. The third insidious aspect of the digital Colosseum is how it turns us from being passive consumers of comparison into active performers of it. It is not just that we watch others, we are acutely aware that we are also being watched. This creates immense pressure to curate and manage our own public image, to build a personal brand. Our own lives start to feel like raw material for content. We go to a concert, and instead of losing ourselves in the music, we are preoccupied with getting the perfect video to post on our story. We cook a nice meal, and we spend 10 minutes arranging the plate and finding the right lighting for a photo before we even take a bite. The experience itself becomes secondary to the documentation of the experience. We are no longer living our lives. We are producing them. This creates a new and exhausting form of anxiety. After you post something, you enter a state of vulnerable limbo. You check your phone obsessively. Who liked it? Who commented? Is it getting as much engagement as my last post? A post that gets a lot of likes and positive comments delivers a powerful dopamine hit of validation. It feels like the tribe approves, but a post that flops, one that gets very little engagement, can feel like a public shaming. It triggers that deep, primitive fear of being ignored or cast out. Your caveman brain interprets the silence as disapproval. We put a carefully crafted version of ourselves out there for judgment and then hold our breath, waiting for the verdict from the crowd in the Colosseum. It is a miserable way to live. This pressure to perform also stifles authenticity. In an era of cancel culture and online mobs, the fear of saying the wrong thing, of being misunderstood, or of having an old post resurface is immense. This creates a chilling effect. We become bland, sanitized versions of ourselves online. We post generic platitudes, politically correct opinions, and carefully vetted photos. We are so afraid of the judgment of the anonymous crowd that we hide anything interesting, quirky, or controversial about ourselves. We are putting on the most elaborate and restrictive social mask we have ever worn, and we are wearing it all the time. The only way out of this performance trap is to stage a small rebellion, a rebellion of authenticity. I want to challenge you to try the uncurated post. This week, I want you to share something on social media that is real, imperfect, and not polished for public consumption. It could be a photo of your messy kitchen after cooking a meal. It could be a picture of you with no filter, looking tired after a long day. It could be a short post about a small struggle you are having or a goal you failed to meet. It does not have to be a deep, dark secret, just something honest. The point of this exercise is to feel the fear of posting it and then to witness the reality of what happens next. And what will happen next is most likely very little. The world will not end. You will not be cancelled. But you might get a direct message from a friend saying, "Me too." You might get a comment from someone appreciating your honesty. You will, most importantly, provide your own nervous system with a powerful piece of evidence. I can be my real self and I will be okay. I can survive without the mask. So how do we live in a world with this digital colosseum without letting it destroy our peace of mind? For most of us, total abstinence is not a realistic or even desirable option. These tools can be valuable for connecting with family, finding communities, or for our work. The answer is not to abandon the arena, but to change the way you engage with it. It is about using the tool, not letting the tool use you. This requires a conscious and deliberate plan. Here is a 5-step digital diet to help you reclaim your mind. First, the purge. Go through the list of accounts you follow on all your platforms. For each one, ask yourself this question. How do I feel after I see this person's content? Do I feel inspired, happy, and connected? Or do I feel envious, inadequate, and anxious? Be brutally honest. If an account consistently makes you feel bad about yourself, you must unfollow it. It does not matter if it is a celebrity, a fitness influencer, or even a friend from high school whose perfect life makes you miserable. This is not about them. It is about protecting your own mental health. Your feed is your digital home. You are the curator. You have the right to evict anyone who pollutes your space. Be ruthless. Second, the schedule. You must create boundaries around your social media use. The most important rule is this: no phone for the first hour you are awake, and no phone for the last hour before you go to sleep. When you wake up, your mind is in a suggestible state. Flooding it with other people's lives and manufactured outrage is a terrible way to start your day. It puts you in a reactive posture. Instead, use that first hour for something that grounds you. Journaling, meditating, stretching, having a coffee in silence. In the evening, the blue light from your screen disrupts your melatonin production and harms your sleep, and the content revs up your mind with anxiety and comparison right when it needs to be winding down. Put your phone to bed in another room an hour before you get into bed. During the day, use the app limiting features on your phone to set hard time limits for these apps. Give yourself 30 minutes a day, and when the time is up, it is up. Third, the notification nuke. Go into your phone's settings right now and turn off every single push notification from your social media apps. Every buzz, every ping, every little red bubble is a weapon of mass distraction. It is an external force hijacking your attention, which is your most valuable resource. You should decide when you want to look at the app. The app should not get to decide for you. This single change can have a profound impact on your ability to focus and be present in your own life. Fourth, the intentional scroll. Before you open Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, I want you to pause for just 2 seconds and ask yourself a simple question. Why am I opening this app right now? Am I feeling bored? Am I feeling lonely? Am I trying to avoid a difficult task? Am I looking for something specific? This tiny moment of awareness breaks the cycle of mindless, compulsive checking. It turns an unconscious habit into a conscious choice. Often, you will realize you are just opening it out of habit, and you can choose to do something else instead. Fifth, and most importantly, the real-world replacement. You cannot just create a vacuum. All the time and mental energy you save by reducing your social media use needs to be filled with something better. What is the real-world equivalent of what you are seeking online? If you are scrolling because you feel lonely, call a friend or a family member and have a real conversation. If you are scrolling because you are bored, pick up a book, go for a walk, work on a hobby, listen to an album. You must replace the low-quality, unsatisfying digital connection with high-quality, fulfilling analog life. The more you invest in your real life, the less appealing the digital mirage becomes. The digital Colosseum is a powerful force, but it is not invincible. It preys on insecurities that it did not create but only magnifies. By understanding its mechanisms, by filtering its content, by refusing to perform, and by consciously managing your engagement with it, you can take back your power. Your life is not a performance to be rated. Your worth is not measured in likes. Your joy is not found by scrolling through the lives of others. Your life is here now in the messy, imperfect, uncurated, and beautiful reality that exists beyond the screen. It is time to look up from your phone and start living it. Chapter 5. The F Budget. Choosing what is worth a damn. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a bank account. Every morning when you wake up, you are given a fresh deposit of 100 units of energy. Let's call these units your care credits. This is your entire budget for the day. Every single time you allow yourself to worry, to get angry, to obsess, or to care about something, you make a withdrawal from this account. Some things are small withdrawals, just 1 or 2 credits. Other things can drain your account completely in a matter of minutes. The problem is, most of us have no idea where our care credits are going. We are living in a state of constant emotional overdraft, bleeding our precious mental energy on things that give us zero return on our investment. We end our days feeling exhausted, anxious, and spiritually bankrupt, wondering where all our energy went. We are giving away our most valuable resource for free, and we are letting the opinions of others dictate our spending habits. This is the day we stop. This is the day you become the chief financial officer of your own mind. Welcome to the concept of the care budget. It is the most important financial planning you will ever do. The principle is simple. You have a finite, limited number of cares to give in a day, a week, and a lifetime. You cannot care about everything. To try and do so is a guaranteed path to misery. Sanity, freedom, and peace of mind are not found by magically stopping caring altogether. That is apathy, and apathy is the territory of the emotionally dead. Freedom is found in the conscious, deliberate, and sometimes ruthless allocation of your cares. It is about choosing, with intention, what is truly worth a damn, and letting the rest of it all go. Let's take an honest look at a typical day of disastrous mental spending. You wake up, and the first thing you do is grab your phone. You see a post from a friend on a glamorous vacation. Withdrawal. 5 care credits spent on envy and comparison. You scroll a little further and see a political argument in a comment section between 2 people you have never met. Withdrawal. 10 credits spent on useless outrage. You get in the shower and start obsessing over a slightly awkward thing you said to your boss yesterday. Withdrawal. 15 credits spent on retroactive anxiety. You get dressed and spend 10 minutes agonizing over which shirt to wear, worried about what your co-workers will think. Withdrawal. 5 credits spent on imaginary judgment. Before you have even had your breakfast, you have already spent 35 of your 100 care credits on absolute junk. The day continues in the same fashion. A driver cuts you off in traffic. Withdrawal, 5 credits on anger. A coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment. Withdrawal, 10 credits spent replaying the conversation in your head. You get an email from your cousin subtly judging your life choices. Withdrawal, another 15 credits spent on a mixture of anger and self-doubt. By the time you get home in the evening, your account is empty. You have nothing left for the things that actually matter. Your partner wants to talk about their day, but you are too drained to listen. Your child wants to play, but you just want to numb out in front of the television. You have a personal project you are passionate about, a book you want to write or a skill you want to learn, but the thought of starting feels utterly overwhelming. You have no energy left. You have spent your entire precious budget on the opinions of strangers, the drama of acquaintances, and the ghosts of your own insecurity. This is not living. This is a slow-motion bankruptcy of the soul. The first step to fixing any financial crisis is to conduct a thorough and brutally honest audit. You need to see in black and white exactly where the money is going. And that is precisely what we are going to do with your care budget. This exercise is not about judging yourself. It is about gathering data. It is about turning on the lights in a dark room to finally see what is there. I want you to take out a notebook and a pen. I prefer you do this physically rather than on a screen. The physical act of writing slows down your thoughts and connects you to the process in a more profound way. I want you to draw a line down the middle of the page. On the left side at the top, I want you to write, "Where my cares are going." On the right side, write, "My new budget." For now, we are only going to focus on the left side. Your task for the next 3 days is to become a meticulous accountant of your own mind. Every time you catch yourself expending mental or emotional energy on something, I want you to write it down in this column. Be specific. Do not just write work stress. Write down "spent 30 minutes worrying about what my manager thought of my presentation." Do not just write social media. Write down "felt a pang of jealousy seeing Sarah's vacation photos and then spent 10 minutes scrolling through her profile." To help you, let's break it down into some common categories of wasteful spending. Category 1. The opinions of strangers. This includes the driver who flipped you off, the rude cashier at the store, the anonymous troll who left a nasty comment on an article you read online. Every time you give a single ounce of your energy to the opinion of someone whose name you do not know and who has zero impact on your actual life, write it down. Category 2. The opinions of acquaintances. This is a big one. This category includes most of your co-workers, your distant relatives, your old high school friends on Facebook, your neighbor down the street. These are the people whose opinions we often chase, not because we deeply value them as individuals, but because they are part of our extended social tribe. Write down every time you modify your behavior, bite your tongue, or feel a surge of anxiety based on what you imagine these people might think of you. Category 3. The past and the future. This is where you spend energy on things you cannot change or cannot control. This includes replaying old mistakes in your mind, agonizing over past embarrassments, worrying about a future event that has not happened yet, or stressing about 100 different worst-case scenarios that will likely never come to pass. Every moment spent in regret or hypothetical anxiety is a withdrawal. Write it down. Category 4. Competitive comparison. This is all the energy you spend measuring yourself against others. It is the time you spend on social media feeling like your life is not as good as someone else's. It is the envy you feel when a friend gets a promotion. It is the pressure you feel to keep up with the perceived successes of your peers. Every time you fall into the comparison trap, document it. Category 5. Trying to please the unpleasable. Many of us have at least one person in our lives, a critical parent, a difficult friend, a demanding boss, who is simply impossible to please. No matter what you do, it is never good enough. Yet we pour endless amounts of our care credits into this black hole, desperately hoping that this time, we will finally win their approval. Identify who this person is for you, and track every ounce of energy you spend trying to manage their opinion of you. After you have done this for 3 days, I want you to sit down and look at your list. Really look at it. Read it out loud. This moment is often a profound shock. You will be looking at a detailed expense report of your own life force. You might be horrified to see that 80 or 90% of your priceless, non-renewable care credits are being spent on things that bring you no joy, no growth, and no peace. You will see in your own handwriting the proof of your own self-inflicted exhaustion. It is okay to feel a sense of loss or frustration at this moment. Acknowledge it, but do not linger there, because this list is not a life sentence. It is your ticket out of jail. This list is the before picture. Now, we get to create the after. It is time to look at the right side of the page, the column labeled My New Budget. This is where the real work begins. This is where you stop reacting to the world and start creating your life. A budget is not just about cutting expenses, it is about deciding what is important enough to invest in. So what is truly worth your care credits? What are the investments that will pay you back with dividends of joy, strength, and fulfillment? We are going to build your new budget around a few core high-yield investment categories. High-yield investment 1, your physical and mental health. This is non-negotiable. This is the foundation of everything. Your budget must include giving a damn about what you eat, about moving your body, about getting enough sleep. It must include caring enough to set boundaries to protect your peace. It must include caring enough to get help if you are struggling, whether that is talking to a therapist, a doctor, or a trusted friend. This is the investment that ensures you have any energy to spend in the first place. On your list, write down specific actionable things like caring about my 8 hours of sleep, or caring about my daily walk, or caring enough to say no to plans when I am exhausted. High-yield investment. 2. Your core relationships. Notice the word core. This is not about your 500 Facebook friends or your difficult second cousin. This is about the handful of people who are your true tribe. Your partner, your children, your absolute best friends, your closest family members, the people who would be there for you at 3 in the morning if you called. These are the relationships that deserve the lion's share of your emotional budget. Write their names down. Underneath, write down what caring for these relationships actually looks like. Caring enough to put my phone away and listen to my partner, caring enough to be present and patient with my kids, caring enough to check in with my best friend. High-yield investment 3, your purpose and growth. This is what gets you out of bed in the morning. It is your passion project, the skill you want to master, the business you want to build, the creative expression you want to unleash on the world. It could be your career, if your career is deeply meaningful to you. It is the part of your life where you feel a sense of contribution and expansion. This is where you invest the energy that makes you feel alive. On your list, write it down: caring about writing my book for 1 hour a day, or caring about learning to play the guitar, or caring enough to work on my business plan. High-yield investment. 4. Your personal peace and joy. This category is often the first to be cut when we are living in a state of emotional bankruptcy, but it is absolutely essential. This is about caring enough to invest in the things that simply make you happy, with no other goal or purpose. It is about reading a novel in the bath. It is about listening to an entire album without doing anything else. It is about spending time in nature. It is about laughter. It is about play. What brings you a simple, uncomplicated sense of joy? Write it down. Now you have 2 lists. The list on the left is a portrait of a life lived by default, a life at the mercy of external forces. The list on the right is a blueprint for a life lived on purpose. The gap between them may seem enormous. So how do we bridge it? How do we stop the wasteful spending and start making wise investments? You do it by creating and enforcing a new set of mental habits. The first tool is the so what test. The next time you find yourself about to spend care credits on something from the left-hand column, like worrying about a stranger's opinion, I want you to stop and ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, so what? Okay, so that stranger in the coffee shop thinks my shirt is ugly. So what? What is the actual, tangible, real-world consequence of that? Will I lose my job? Will my family stop loving me? Will I be physically harmed? The answer is always a resounding no. There is no consequence. Asking, "So what?" reveals the utter insignificance of the vast majority of things we worry about. It is a pin that pops the balloon of anxiety. Practice this relentlessly. The second tool is the 5-year rule. When you are agonizing over something, a mistake you made or a perceived failure, ask yourself this question. In 5 years, will this matter? Will you even remember it? The vast majority of our daily anxieties and embarrassments will be completely forgotten in 5 years, let alone 5 weeks or 5 days. This question yanks you out of the myopic tunnel vision of the present moment and gives you the expansive perspective of time. If it will not matter in 5 years, it does not deserve to ruin your next 5 minutes. Withdraw your investment. The third tool is the giver's cut. This is about your relationships. Look at your list of people you spend energy on. For each person, ask yourself, is this a reciprocal relationship? Do I get a return on my investment of care? Some relationships are naturally one way for a time, like with very young children or a sick family member. But many are just energy drains. The friend who only calls when they need something. The family member who does nothing but criticize. You need to perform an emotional budget cut. This does not always mean cutting the person out of your life completely. It can mean loving them from a distance. It can mean deciding to no longer invest your emotional energy in their drama. You can be kind and polite, but you are no longer giving them your precious care credits. You are reallocating those credits to the people on your core relationships list. Many people struggle with this because they are afraid it is selfish. Let me be perfectly clear. Managing your care budget is one of the most generous things you can do. When you are emotionally bankrupt, you have nothing of value to give to anyone. You're irritable, anxious, and unavailable. You are a terrible partner, a distracted parent, and a flaky friend. But when you have a healthy, balanced budget, you are a different person. When you stop wasting your energy on the opinions of your co-workers, you have more energy to truly listen to your spouse. When you stop caring about a negative online comment, you have more energy to play with your children. When you stop trying to please your critical mother-in-law, you have more energy to work on that project that sets your soul on fire. By being selective with your care, you have something powerful and real to offer to the things and people you have chosen to matter. You are not being selfish, you are being strategic so that you can be truly generous. This is a practice. You will not get it perfect overnight. In the beginning, you will have to be a very strict accountant. You will have to constantly check your spending against your new budget. You will have days where you fall back into old habits and find yourself emotionally overdrawn. That is okay. Just like with a financial budget, you just notice it, forgive yourself, and get back on track the next day. But over time, it will become second nature. You will develop an intuitive sense for what is a worthy investment and what is junk. The noise of the world will begin to fade, and the things that truly matter will come into sharp, beautiful focus. Your life force, your mental and emotional energy, is the most valuable currency you will ever possess. It is finite, and it is non-refundable. Stop letting the world tell you how to spend it. It is time to take control of the account. It is time to stop funding your fears and start investing in your freedom. Your new life is waiting for your investment. Chapter 6. Your inner compass. If you do not stand for something, you will fall for anything. In the last chapter, we made a powerful decision. We decided to stop being reckless spenders of our own life force. We created a budget, a conscious plan to stop wasting our precious care credits on the things that do not matter and start investing them in the things that do. This is a crucial, game-changing step, but it immediately brings up a deeper, more fundamental question. How do we know what is a good investment? How do we decide, in the messy, confusing moments of real life, what is truly important? On what basis do we make these choices? If we do not have a clear answer to this question, even the best budget will fail. We will be easily swayed by the opinions of others, by the latest trends, by our own fleeting moods. We will find ourselves constantly looking outside for a map, asking for directions from people who are just as lost as we are. The reason so many of us are hopelessly addicted to the approval of others is that we have no reliable system for approving of ourselves. We lack a firm internal foundation. We are like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by every wave of external expectation. Today, we are going to build that rudder. we are going to forge your inner compass. This compass, once you learn how to read it, will become your most trusted guide. It is the unwavering internal navigation system that will allow you to hold your course, even in the most violent storms of social pressure. This compass is built from one thing: your core values. Let's be very clear about what values are and what they are not. Values are not goals. A goal is a destination, something you achieve and then it is done. Losing 10 pounds is a goal. Running a marathon is a goal. Getting a promotion is a goal. Values, on the other hand, are a direction. They are the way you choose to travel on your journey, regardless of the destination. Health is a value. You live the value of health every day by choosing the salad over the fries, or by going for a walk. Whether you are losing weight or not, perseverance is a value. You live it by training for the marathon day after day, whether you win the race or not. Excellence is a value. You live it by doing your best work, whether you get the promotion or not. Goals are the what. Values are the how. Values are also not morals, at least not in the rigid sense of a universal right and wrong. Your values are your personal chosen principles of behavior. They are the qualities of action that you personally deem most important and desirable. And here is the critical point. If you do not consciously choose your own values, the world will be more than happy to choose them for you. Society, your family, advertising, and social media are all constantly screaming at you about what you should value. They will tell you to value wealth, status, beauty, popularity, and conformity. If you do not have your own list, you will unconsciously adopt theirs. And you will spend your life chasing things that do not actually make you happy, wondering why you feel so empty and lost. You will be living someone else's life. Living without clearly defined values is the source of so much of our anxiety. It creates a painful internal conflict. You might have a vague, nagging feeling that you want to be more adventurous, but you find yourself always making the safe choice because you are operating on an inherited value of security from your parents. You might want a life of creativity and self-expression, but you are stuck in a boring but stable job because society has taught you to value prestige above all else. This inner dissonance is exhausting. It is the feeling of walking in shoes that do not fit. The constant need for external validation is a symptom of this problem. When you do not know what you stand for, you need other people to tell you that you are standing in the right place. But when you are firmly planted in your own values, you become your own source of validation. The opinions of others who do not share your values become irrelevant noise. They are giving you directions for a journey you are not on. So how do we find these values? They are not hiding in a cave or at the top of a mountain. They are already inside you. They are buried under years of conditioning, social pressure, and other people's expectations. Our job is to excavate them, to bring them out into the light so we can see them clearly. This requires a process of deep self-reflection. I want you to set aside at least 1 hour of uninterrupted time for this exercise. Turn off your phone, close your computer, and find a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. This is a sacred meeting with the most important person in your life, yourself. Bring your notebook and pen. We are going to conduct a values clarification. Step 1. The Great Brain Dump. To get you started, I'm going to give you a list of common values. As I read these words, I want you to write down every single one that gives you a little spark of recognition, a small internal yes. Do not overthink it. Do not judge. Just capture anything that resonates. Here we go. Honesty, integrity, authenticity, freedom, independence, adventure, creativity, growth, learning, knowledge, wisdom, security, stability, peace, calm, compassion, kindness, service, contribution, justice, fairness, equality, love, connection, community, family, friendship, loyalty, fun, humor, playfulness, spontaneity, discipline, excellence, achievement, success, wealth, power, influence, leadership, respect, recognition, courage, bravery, health, vitality, spirituality, beauty, order, simplicity. Take a moment now to look at your list. You might have 10 words or you might have 30. Both are fine. This is just our raw material. Step 2. The peak and a valley. Now we are going to bring these abstract words to life by connecting them to your own personal experiences. I want you to think back over your entire life and identify one or two peak experiences. These are moments when you felt truly alive, deeply proud, and authentically yourself. It does not have to be a huge, dramatic event. It could be the time you finished a difficult project, the time you traveled to a new country by yourself, a moment of deep connection with a loved one, or the day you finally learned to do something you thought you could not. Close your eyes and relive that moment for a minute. What were you doing? Who were you with? What did it feel like in your body? Now look at your list of values. Which of those values were you embodying in that moment? Circle them. For example, if your peak experience was backpacking through Asia, you might circle adventure, freedom, growth, and independence. Next, I want you to do the opposite. Think of a time in your life when you felt deeply frustrated, angry, or empty. A time when you felt you were betraying yourself. It could be a job you hated, a toxic relationship you stayed in too long, or a time you acted in a way that you later regretted. Again, sit with that feeling for a moment. What was happening? Now look at your list of values. Which of your values were being suppressed, violated, or ignored in that situation? Put an X next to those words. For example, if your painful experience was staying silent in a meeting when your boss was being unfair to a colleague, you might put an X next to justice, courage, and integrity. These moments of pain are powerful teachers. They show us what is truly important to us by showing us what it feels like when those things are absent. Step 3. The hard choices. You should now have a list of value words, some of which are circled and some of which have an X next to them. The ones with the most emotional charge, the ones that appeared in both your peak experiences and your painful memories, are likely your core values. But your list is probably still too long. A compass with 20 different norths is useless. You need to narrow it down to the absolute essentials. Your task now is to choose your top 4. This is going to be difficult. It will feel like you are abandoning important parts of yourself. You are not. You are simply identifying the absolute bedrock. Look at your list. If you have similar words like honesty and integrity and authenticity, group them together and choose the one word that feels most powerful and all-encompassing to you. Now, start making the tough cuts. If you had to choose between a life of adventure and a life of security, which one in your deepest heart of hearts is more you? If you could only have connection or achievement, which would you pick? This is a forced choice exercise designed to reveal your deepest priorities. Take your time. There is no right answer, only your answer. When you are finished, you should have a list of just 4 core values. These 4 words are your inner compass. Write them down on a fresh page in your notebook. Write them in big, bold letters. This is your personal constitution. This is the code you will live by. Now comes the most important part. Discovering your values is a wonderful exercise, but it is completely useless if you do not put them into practice. Your values must become a verb. They must be the filter through which you make every important decision in your life. They are the tool you will use to build a life that is truly your own, a life that is immune to the arbitrary opinions of others. Let's see how this works in the real world. Using your compass as a decision filter, every time you face a significant choice, you will now run it through your values. Let's say your 4 core values are growth, creativity, freedom, and connection. You get offered a new job. The job pays much more money than your current one, which appeals to the societal value of wealth. And it has a very prestigious title, appealing to the societal value of status. But the job is very rigid, with no room for new ideas, and it requires you to be in the office for long hours, leaving little time for your personal life. Before you had your compass, you might have taken this job. You would have been swayed by the money and the prestige, the things other people are impressed by. But now you have your compass. You ask, does this job honor my value of growth? No, it sounds stagnant. Does it honor my value of creativity? No, it is rigid and restrictive. Does it honor my value of freedom? No, the long hours will trap me. Does it honor my value of connection? No, it will take time away from my loved ones. The decision is now crystal clear. The answer is no. It does not matter what your parents think, or what your friends think, or how good it looks on paper. The job is not aligned with who you are. Your compass has saved you from making a decision that would have made you rich but miserable. It has kept you on your true path. Using your compass as a boundary setter. Let's say one of your core values is peace. A family member constantly tries to draw you into dramatic arguments and gossip. In the past, you might have gone along with it to avoid conflict, to be nice. But every time you did, you felt drained and anxious. You were violating your own core value. Now, with your compass, you have the strength to set a boundary. You can say kindly but firmly, "I care about you, but I'm not going to participate in this conversation. I am choosing to focus on more positive things." You are not rejecting the person. You are honoring your value. The guilt that you used to feel when saying no vanishes because you know that a no to their drama is a yes to your own inner peace. Using your compass as an opinion deflector. This is where we directly tackle the central theme of this book. Imagine one of your core values is adventure. You decide to quit your stable job to travel the world for a year. A well-meaning friend says to you, "Are you crazy? That is so irresponsible. What about your career? What about your retirement savings?" In the past, this comment might have sent you into a spiral of doubt and anxiety. But now you have your compass. You recognize that your friend is operating from their own core value, which is probably security. Their opinion makes perfect sense from their point of view. It is valid for them, but it is completely irrelevant to you. Their compass is pointing to their north, and yours is pointing to yours. You can smile and say, "I appreciate your concern, but this is something I have to do for myself." The judgment does not stick because you are sheathed in the armor of your own conviction. You are not being arrogant, you are simply aligned. Living by your values is a daily practice. I want you to write your 4 core values on a small card and put it in your wallet. Put them on a sticky note on your bathroom mirror. Make them the wallpaper on your phone. You need to keep them in front of your mind, especially in the beginning. At the end of each day, take 2 minutes to do a quick values check-in. Ask yourself, where did I honor my values today? Where did I fall short? No judgment, just gentle observation. This daily reflection will strengthen your connection to your compass and make it easier and more natural to use. Be aware that as you start to live a more value-driven life, some people around you may not like it. When you stop being a people pleaser, some people will no longer be pleased. When you set boundaries, some people will test them. When you start making choices that are right for you but do not fit their expectations, they may call you selfish or weird. This is a crucial test. It is the moment you must trust your compass more than you trust the crowd. The discomfort you feel is a sign of growth. It is the friction of you breaking free from the gravitational pull of other people's opinions and entering your own orbit. The people who truly matter, the ones who belong in your new intentional life, will respect your choices, even if they do not understand them. They will be drawn to your newfound integrity and authenticity. You will begin to attract people who share your values, and your relationships will become deeper and more meaningful. You will trade the shallow validation of the crowd for the profound sense of belonging that comes from connecting with your true tribe. You are no longer a ship without a rudder. You have a powerful internal guidance system. You have a list of words that are more than just words. They are your declaration of independence. They are the standard against which you will measure your life. The world will always be noisy. People will always have opinions. The winds of expectation will always blow. But from now on, you will be different. You will have an anchor. You will have a course. You will have your compass. All you have to do is trust it, and it will guide you home to yourself. Chapter 7. Putting judgment on trial. Let's begin with a feeling. It is a feeling you know intimately, a sensation as familiar as your own heartbeat. You walk into a room, perhaps a party where you only know a few people, or a new class or a networking event for your job. For a split second, the conversations seem to dip, and a few heads turn in your direction. And in that instant, a cascade of silent, crushing accusations fills your mind. They think my outfit is weird. They can tell I am nervous. They know I do not belong here. I bet they are wondering who let me in. Each thought is a little verdict, a judgment delivered with absolute certainty by the court of your own anxiety. Your body responds as if the threat is real. A flush of heat creeps up your neck. Your stomach tightens. You suddenly become intensely aware of how you are holding your hands, how you are walking, how you are breathing. You are on trial, and you have already been found guilty. Or maybe it is a more subtle moment. You are sitting in a cafe and you catch the eye of a stranger at another table. Their expression is neutral, maybe even blank, but your mind immediately translates it into a judgment. They are thinking I look tired. They are judging me for being on my phone. They probably think I am a loser for sitting here alone. The feeling, though less intense, is the same. It is the feeling of being seen and found wanting. It is the heavy, invisible weight of disapproval. This constant running commentary of perceived judgment is one of the most exhausting and limiting experiences of modern life. It is the invisible electric fence that keeps us penned into a small, safe pasture, afraid to venture out into the vast, open fields of our own potential. We have talked about the evolutionary reasons for this fear, the childhood conditioning that wires it in, and the social media that amplifies it. We have created a budget for our cares and found our inner compass to guide us. But now we must confront the enemy head-on. We must deal with the feeling of judgment itself in the very moment it arises. The great secret to dismantling this feeling is to realize that you have been playing the wrong role in the courtroom of your mind. You have been casting yourself as the perpetual defendant, always on trial, always trying to prove your innocence to a jury of strangers and a harsh internal judge. This is a rigged game you can never win. Today you are going to change your role. You are no longer the defendant, you are the presiding judge. From now on, when the accusation of "I am being judged" enters your mind, you will not accept it as a verdict. You will treat it as what it is, an accusation, a piece of hearsay, a claim that must be subjected to a rigorous and impartial trial before it is given any power. You are going to put judgment itself on trial, and you are going to discover time and time again that under cross-examination, the case against you falls apart completely. Before we proceed to the trial itself, we must first understand the nature of the accuser. Who or what is this voice that is constantly whispering these judgments into your ear? The first thing to recognize is that 99% of the time, the judgment we feel is not external. It is not something someone has actually said or done. It is internal. It is a story we are telling ourselves about what is going on in someone else's mind. We are, in effect, mind reading. This is a direct link back to the spotlight effect we discussed in the first chapter. We assume that others are thinking about us with the same intensity and criticality that we are thinking about ourselves. This is a cognitive distortion, a trick of the mind. You are not a psychic. You have no more idea what is going on in a stranger's head than you do about the atmospheric conditions on Jupiter. You are guessing. And because your caveman brain is wired for survival, you are always guessing the worst-case scenario. This internal voice of judgment is not a new voice, it is an echo, it is a ghost. For most of us, it is a composite character made up of all the critical voices from our past. It is the voice of a parent who was hard to please, a teacher who pointed out our every mistake, a childhood bully who made fun of our clothes, the popular kids who decided who was cool and who was not. We have internalized these voices, and they have become a kind of default narrator for our lives. This narrator's job, as it sees it, is to keep us safe by constantly pointing out our flaws before someone else does. It thinks it is helping. It thinks that by prejudging us, it can protect us from the shock and pain of being judged by others. It is like a hyper-vigilant bodyguard that ends up locking you in a padded room for your own safety. It is a survival mechanism that has long outlived its usefulness. The fuel that allows this voice to have any power at all is your own insecurity. The judgment you fear from others is almost always a projection of a judgment you already hold against yourself. If you are secretly insecure about your intelligence, you will interpret every question as a challenge and every moment of silence as proof that people think you are stupid. If you are insecure about your appearance, you will see every glance from a stranger as a critical assessment of your flaws. The external world simply becomes a screen onto which you project your own inner movie. The person who is deeply and genuinely comfortable with their choices and their body can walk through a room of whispering people and assume they are talking about the weather. The person who is full of self-doubt will walk through that same room and be absolutely convinced they are the topic of derisive conversation. The problem, therefore, is not what is happening out there. The problem is the lens through which you are viewing it. So now that we understand our accuser, this internal, insecure, well-meaning but utterly misguided voice, we can proceed to the trial. The next time you feel that familiar sting of judgment, that hot flush of self-consciousness, I want you to stop. Take a breath. And you, the wise and impartial judge, will bang your mental gavel and say, "Order in the court." You will then subject the accusation to 3 powerful sequential questions. This is your framework for freedom. This is how you take back your power. The first question of the trial, the evidence phase, is this: is it true? When the thought, "They are all thinking I am an idiot," enters your mind, your first job as the judge is to demand evidence. Not feelings, not assumptions, not insecurities. Cold, hard, verifiable facts. You must ask the prosecuting attorney in your head, what is your evidence to support this claim? The prosecutor will likely sputter and say, "Well, he looked at me funny," or "She did not smile when I said hello," or "There was an awkward silence after I spoke." Your job as the judge is to see that this is incredibly weak, circumstantial evidence. A funny look is not a fact, it is an interpretation. An awkward silence is not a fact, it is an interpretation. Your next step is to act as the defense attorney and offer the court at least 5 alternative, equally plausible interpretations for the evidence presented. This is a crucial mind-altering exercise. Let's take the evidence of "he looked at me funny." Alternative interpretation. 1. He was not looking at you at all. He was looking at the person or the clock behind you, and his face was just reflecting his own internal thoughts. Alternative interpretation. 2. He has a headache. His face is tense because his head is pounding, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Alternative interpretation. 3. He is deep in thought about a problem at work. He is trying to solve a complex issue in his mind, and you just happen to cross his line of sight. Alternative interpretation. 4. You remind him of someone. His brain is trying to place where he knows you from, creating a look of confused concentration. Alternative interpretation 5. He has a condition that I like to call resting jerk face. His neutral expression just happens to look critical, and he looks at everyone and everything that way. By simply generating these alternatives, you perform a kind of mental magic. You shatter the illusion of certainty. The initial thought, "He thinks I am an idiot," felt like 100% truth a moment ago. Now, it is just one of 6 or more possibilities, and frankly, it is the least likely one on the list. You have introduced reasonable doubt. The prosecutor's case is already falling apart. Let's try it with another piece of evidence. There was an awkward silence after I told my joke at the meeting. Alternative interpretation. 1. The joke was more complex than you thought, and people were taking a second to process it before laughing. Alternative interpretation 2. The connection on the video call was lagging, and the audio was delayed for everyone else. Alternative interpretation. 3. The team leader was about to move on to the next point on the agenda, and they were simply waiting for their moment. Alternative interpretation. 4. People were muted and were laughing silently to themselves, or they were trying to find the unmute button. Alternative interpretation 5. The joke simply was not that funny. This does not mean they think you are an idiot. It just means that particular joke did not land. The consequence is 0. The point of this exercise is to break your fusion with your first negative thought. Our minds are lazy. They love to jump to the most dramatic and threatening conclusion because that is what kept our ancestors alive. Your job as the conscious, evolved human is to override this lazy, primitive thinking with deliberate, rational, and creative thought. You have to prove to yourself that your first interpretation is not the only one, and it is almost certainly not the correct one. Now, what about the times when the judgment is not just perceived but spoken? What if someone actually says to you, "That was a stupid idea"? In this case, the first question, "Is it true?" changes slightly. The fact is that they said those words. That is true. But the trial is not about what they said. It is about the meaning you give it. The accusation is not "they said my idea was stupid." The accusation is "my idea is stupid." And so you must still ask, is it true? Is this person the world's sole arbiter of good and bad ideas? Is their opinion a fact? Of course not. It is just their opinion. You can choose to consider their feedback, but you do not have to accept their verdict about your intelligence, or the value of your idea. The truth is that you had an idea, you shared it, and one person did not like it. That is all. You are still in control of what you make that mean. After you have thoroughly examined the evidence and found it to be flimsy at best, you move to the second question of the trial, the consequence phase. This question is, so what? This is where you look the fear in the eye and call its bluff. For the sake of the trial, let's imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. Let's pretend the first question came back with a guilty verdict. Let's say you have undeniable proof. You have a signed, notarized affidavit from a co-worker stating, "I, John Doe, do hereby declare that I think you are an incompetent idiot." You have video evidence. It is 100% true that he thinks you are an idiot. Now, the judge in your mind leans forward and asks the second question, with genuine calm curiosity. So what? What is the actual, tangible, real-world consequence of John Doe's thought? Follow the fear all the way to the end. Do not let it hide in vague, scary shadows. Drag it out into the light. The prosecutor in your head will start to panic. Well, if he thinks I am an idiot, he might not respect me. You, the judge, will calmly ask, so what? Well, he might tell other people in the office that I am an idiot. So what? Well, then they might all think I am an idiot. They might tell our boss, and so what? Well, then my boss might think I am an idiot, and I might get a bad performance review, and I might get overlooked for a promotion, and I might even get fired. Okay, now we have arrived at the ultimate fear, the fear of being fired. Now you ask the question one more time with deep seriousness. And so what happens then? Well, I would have to find a new job. I would have to update my resume and go on interviews, and it would be stressful, and my savings would take a hit. Now, look at that final outcome. Is it a catastrophe? Is it a death sentence? No. It is a survivable, manageable life event. It is an inconvenience. It is a challenge. Millions of people get fired and find new jobs every single year. By following the fear all the way to its so-called end, you discover that the monster you were so afraid of is just a man in a rubber suit. The catastrophic consequences you imagine are almost never as bad as the vague, undefined anxiety you feel in the moment. The so what question is a powerful tool because it reveals the absurd discrepancy between the intensity of our fear and the reality of the stakes. We are spending 100 units of our precious care credits on a 5-unit problem. We are reacting to a co-worker's fleeting thought as if it is a saber-toothed tiger at our throat. When you realize that the ultimate consequence is, at worst, a manageable problem, the initial thought loses its terrifying power. You can say to yourself, okay, maybe John Doe does think I am an idiot. So what? I will survive his opinion. His thought has no actual power over me. You have called the fear's bluff and you have won. Finally, after you have determined that the accusation is likely not true, and that even if it were true, the consequences would be manageable, you deliver the final, liberating blow. You ask the third question of the trial, the jurisdiction phase. Whose problem is it? This question represents a fundamental shift in perspective, a revolution in your understanding of human interaction. The answer to this question, 100% of the time, is this. Another person's judgment of you is never, ever about you. It is always in its entirety about them. It is their problem, not yours. A judgment that comes from another person is a piece of their own autobiography. It is a reflection of their history, their values, their insecurities, their mood, their fears, and their view of the world. It is a mirror that reflects what is inside them, not a window that looks into you. When you truly grasp this, you become bulletproof. Let's go back to John Doe, who thinks your idea is stupid. Let's assume his value system, based on his upbringing and personality, prizes safety, tradition, and predictability. Your idea, on the other hand, is innovative, risky, and unconventional. When he calls your idea stupid, he is not actually describing your idea. He is describing his own emotional reaction to it. He is saying, "This idea makes me feel uncomfortable because it challenges my value of safety." He is telling you about his own inner world. The judgment is a confession of his own limitations. It is his problem. Let's take another example. You decide to leave a high-paying corporate job to become an artist. A family member says to you, "That is so irresponsible. You are throwing your life away. In the past, this would have hurt, but now you put it on trial. You recognize that this judgment is not about you. It is about their own deep-seated fear of financial insecurity. It is about their belief that a person's worth is tied to their income. They are projecting their own fears and their own life script onto you. The judgment has nothing to do with your talent, your potential, or the validity of your dream. It is their problem. Your only job is to accurately assign ownership of the opinion. You can practice this with a simple reframing exercise. When you hear a judgment, mentally translate it. "You are too loud" becomes "my tolerance for noise is very low." "That outfit is too weird" becomes "my sense of style is very conventional." "You are being too emotional" becomes "I'm uncomfortable with strong displays of emotion." Do you see the shift? You are no longer the object of the sentence. You are no longer the one being defined. You are simply an observer of another person's internal state. This is not about being arrogant or dismissive. It can be done with great compassion. You can understand why they feel that way based on who they are, without having to take on their feeling as a truth about yourself. You are handing the problem back to its rightful owner. This final question is the most liberating of all because it removes you from the game entirely. You no longer have to defend yourself. You no longer have to justify your choices. You no longer have to tie yourself in knots, trying to manage what is going on in someone else's head. That is their business. Your business is to live your life in accordance with your own values, your own compass. You are stepping outside the jurisdiction of their court. You are declaring sovereignty over your own mind. This three-question framework, is it true? So what? And whose problem is it? Is your mental toolkit. It is your rapid response system for the moments when you feel the sting of judgment. In the beginning, you will have to walk through it consciously, step by step. It might feel slow and deliberate, but with practice, it will become faster. It will become second nature. The accusation will arise, and almost instantly, your mind will run the diagnostic. Is it true? Probably not. So what? The consequences are minimal. Whose problem is it? Theirs. And just like that, the feeling dissolves. The charge is dismissed. Every time you successfully conduct this trial, you do two things. You weaken the power of the insecure, prosecuting voice in your head, and you strengthen the authority of the wise, impartial judge. You are rewiring your brain one thought at a time. You are moving from a life of being a perpetual defendant in the court of public opinion to a life of being the sovereign ruler of your own inner world. The jury of your peers has been permanently dismissed. From now on, there is only one verdict that matters, and it is yours. Chapter 8. The antidote to fear is action. There is a place I am sure you know well. It is a mental space, a state of being, where progress comes to a grinding halt. It is the land of overthinking. It is the kingdom of paralysis. It is the place you go when you are standing at the edge of a decision, peering into the fog of the unknown, and the fear of what other people will think begins its insidious work. You want to start the business, but you think, what if I fail and everyone laughs at me? You want to ask for that promotion, but you think, what if they think I am not ready and that I am arrogant for asking? You want to post your art online, but you think, what if no one likes it and people leave cruel comments? And so what do? You retreat from the edge. You sit down and you start to think. You tell yourself you are being strategic. You are planning. You are waiting for the right moment. You are waiting until you have a more perfect idea, until you have researched every possible outcome, until you have a bulletproof plan. But most of all, you are waiting for something else. You are waiting for a feeling. You are waiting for the fear to go away. You are waiting for the mythical beast known as confidence to descend from the heavens and grant you its blessing, at which point you will finally be ready to act. You might wait for days, you might wait for years, you might wait your entire life. I am here today to tell you that you have been playing a losing game. You have been operating on a fundamentally flawed premise, a lie that our society teaches us from a young age. The lie is that confidence is a prerequisite for action. The lie is that we must first feel brave in order to do brave things. The truth is the exact opposite. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for. It is a result you create. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of moving forward even when your knees are shaking. The paralysis you feel cannot be cured by more thinking. It can only be cured by one thing: action. Action is the antidote to the fear of what other people think. It is the only medicine that works. Let's first deconstruct the prison of paralysis. Why does thinking more make us more, not less, afraid? When we are in a state of fear, our brain is in threat detection mode. It is our caveman brain at the controls, scanning the horizon for tigers. When you sit down to think through a scary decision, you are not actually thinking strategically. You are ruminating. You are taking your fear and putting it in a mental hamster wheel. The wheel spins faster and faster, but it goes nowhere. You are not finding solutions. You are finding more potential problems. You are imagining in vivid detail all the ways you could be judged, all the ways you could fail, all the ways you could be rejected. You are feeding your fear with the very attention it craves. You are telling your brain, yes, this is a very, very dangerous situation. We should be even more scared. This creates a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle. The fear of judgment leads to inaction. Your inaction means you never gather any new real-world data to challenge your fear. Because you have no new evidence, your original fear becomes even more entrenched. See, your brain says, it must be really dangerous because we have not even tried it yet. Your comfort zone, which is the area where you feel no fear of judgment, begins to shrink. The world gets smaller and more threatening. The inaction itself becomes a source of shame and frustration, which only adds to your belief that you are not the kind of person who can do bold things. It is a perfect prison, and the bars are made of your own thoughts. To break out of this prison, you must fundamentally change your relationship with the concept of confidence. We think of confidence as a personality trait, a magical quality that some people are just born with. We see a confident person speaking on stage, and we think, wow, they are not scared at all. This is a complete misinterpretation. That person is almost certainly feeling some level of fear. The difference is not the absence of fear. The difference is their history of action. Confidence is not a feeling. It is a reputation you build with yourself. Think of it like any other reputation. How do you build a reputation for being a reliable friend? You do it by reliably showing up for your friends over and over again. How does a company build a reputation for good customer service? By providing good customer service, transaction after transaction. You build a reputation for confidence in exactly the same way. By acting, by keeping the promises you make to yourself, and by proving to yourself, through direct experience, that you can handle challenges. The feeling of confidence is the afterglow of a brave action. It is the reward, not the starting point. You cannot get the reward until you have done the work. Waiting for the feeling of confidence to arrive before you act is like a farmer waiting for the harvest before they plant the seeds. It is a complete reversal of the laws of nature. So if we cannot think our way out, we must act our way out. The way forward is to embrace a principle that I call the physics of freedom. Action creates clarity. In any situation of uncertainty, your greatest enemy is stagnation. Your greatest ally is momentum. Taking one small, imperfect step provides you with something that 1,000 hours of anxious thinking can never give you: feedback. The world talks back to you when you act. You get new information. You see new possibilities. You learn what works and what does not. The path forward is not revealed by standing still and staring into the fog. The path is revealed by taking a step, which allows you to see the next place to put your foot. This is why we must worship at the altar of imperfect action. We are paralyzed because we are waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect time, the perfect words. We are afraid of being judged for not doing it perfectly. This perfectionism is the most clever and socially acceptable disguise that fear has ever invented. It sounds noble. I just want to do it right. But what it really means is, I am terrified of being judged for doing it wrong. You must be willing to be a beginner. You must be willing to be awkward. You must be willing to be clumsy. You must be willing to be imperfect. An imperfect action taken today is infinitely more powerful than a perfect action you plan to take someday. Someday is a magical land where all our dreams live, but it is a land no one has ever found on a map. One of the most powerful and practical tools for short-circuiting this paralysis and launching yourself into imperfect action is a concept popularized by author and speaker Mel Robbins called the 5-second rule. The idea is remarkably simple, yet its impact can be profound. Whenever you have an instinct to act on a goal or a commitment, you have a 5-second window to act on it before your brain kills the idea. Your brain, in its effort to protect you from risk, will pull the emergency brake. It will start to flood you with doubts, fears, and excuses. The 5-second rule is a tool to outsmart your own brain. The moment you feel the instinct to do something scary, you start counting backward from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you hit 1, you physically move. You launch yourself like a rocket. If you need to speak up in a meeting, the moment the thought enters your head, you start counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And on 1, you raise your hand or you open your mouth and start talking, before your brain can tell you all the reasons why it is a terrible idea. If you need to make a difficult phone call, you look at the phone and you start counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And on 1, you press the call button. This is not a gimmick. It is a form of what psychologists call a starting ritual. It interrupts the habit loop of hesitation and replaces it with a habit of action. It shifts you from your primitive, emotional brain to your logical, action-oriented prefrontal cortex. It is a simple, repeatable way to push yourself over the cliff of your own resistance. But launching yourself into action is only part of the equation. If you try to go from never speaking in meetings to giving the keynote address at the annual conference, you are setting yourself up for failure. This brings us to the core of our training program. We are going to build your courage muscle. And just like building any other muscle, we are going to do it at the Courage Gym. Using the principle of progressive overload, you would never walk into a weight room for the first time and try to bench press 400 pounds. You would hurt yourself, you would fail, and you would probably never come back. You would start with a light weight, something you can manage, and you would do a few repetitions. Over time, as you get stronger, you would gradually increase the weight. We will treat your fear of judgment in exactly the same way. You are going to start with very light weights, and you are going to gradually, systematically increase the load until what once seemed impossibly heavy feels manageable. This is the path to real, sustainable confidence. This is the how. Here is your 4-step training plan for the Courage Gym. Step 1. Map your fear zone. You cannot train a muscle if you do not know where it is. I want you to take out your notebook and make a detailed list of all the things you currently avoid doing because you are afraid of what other people will think. Do not be vague. Do not just write public speaking. Write down asking a question in the weekly team meeting, or volunteering to present my team's update, or making a toast at my friend's wedding. Be as specific as possible. The list might include social situations like going to a party alone. It might include creative risks like posting a poem I wrote on my blog. It might include professional risks like asking for feedback from my manager. It might include personal expression like wearing my bright yellow jacket that I love but worry is too loud. Create a comprehensive inventory of your fears. Step 2. Create your discomfort hierarchy. Now you are going to become a fear connoisseur. I want you to go through your list and rate each item on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is slightly uncomfortable, like a little itch, and 10 is absolutely terrifying, I think I might actually die. This is your discomfort hierarchy. This is your rack of weights at the Courage Gym. The items rated 1 to 3 are your light weights, the items rated 4 to 6 are your medium weights, and the items rated 7 and above are your heavy weights. We are going to put the heavy weights aside for now. Looking at them will only intimidate you. Our work for the next few weeks will take place entirely in the 1 to 3 range. Step 3. Schedule your reps. This is the most crucial step. A workout plan is useless if you do not actually go to the gym. You're going to choose one of your level 1 or level 2 fears, and you are going to schedule it in your calendar. You're going to treat it with the same seriousness as a doctor's appointment or a meeting with your boss. If your level 2 fear is ask a question in the weekly team meeting, you will put an appointment in your calendar for that meeting time that says, Courage Gym, ask 1 question. By scheduling it, you are committing to it. You are taking it out of the vague realm of, I should do this someday, and putting it into the concrete reality of, I will do this on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Step 4. Execute and observe. This is your workout. When the scheduled time arrives, you will use the 5-second rule or whatever other starting ritual you choose, and you will do the thing. You will take the small, brave action. And then immediately afterward, you will do the most important part of the exercise. You will do a post-workout analysis. In your notebook, I want you to answer 2 questions. 1. What was the catastrophe I imagined would happen? And 2. What was the actual outcome? For example, after you ask your question in the meeting, imagined catastrophe. Everyone would think I was an idiot for asking such a basic question. My boss would lose respect for me. My co-workers would snicker. Actual outcome. My boss answered the question. One of my co-workers sent me a message afterward saying, "Thanks for asking that, I was wondering the same thing." Every single time you do this, you are gathering a piece of irrefutable first-hand evidence that your fear is a liar. You are creating a logbook of bravery. You are systematically overwriting the old, faulty programming in your brain with new, accurate data. The old program says, "If I speak up, I will be judged and rejected." The new data says, "I spoke up and I was fine. In fact, it was helpful." After you have successfully done a few reps with a level 2 weight, it will start to feel lighter. It might become a level 1 fear. Now you are ready to try a level 3 fear. And so on. You will slowly, patiently, and systematically work your way up your hierarchy. This is the slow, unglamorous, but unstoppable path to genuine courage. Let's be very clear about one thing. As you do this, you will face the final boss of this level, the fear of failure. Many of your reps will go smoothly, but some will not. You will ask your question, and maybe the boss will seem annoyed. You will wear your yellow jacket, and maybe someone will make a joke about it. You will post your art, and maybe someone will leave a mean comment. These moments are not signs that the program is not working. These moments are the most important reps of all. These are your heavy lifts. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is an integral part of the process. It is the resistance that makes the muscle grow. Your goal in this training is not to ensure that every action has a positive outcome. Your goal is to expand your capacity to tolerate discomfort and to prove to yourself that you can survive a negative outcome. When you fail, or when you are judged, and you realize that you are still standing, that the world did not end, that you are okay, you have a breakthrough. You have uncoupled your sense of self-worth from the outcome of your actions. You realize that your value does not come from universal approval. It comes from the courage to try. I want you to reframe failure as data collection. Thomas Edison, in his search for a functional light bulb filament, famously said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that will not work." Each failure was simply a data point that moved him closer to the solution. When someone judges you, that is just a data point. It tells you something about that person, or about how your message was received. It is information, not a verdict on your soul. I encourage you to keep a failure resume, a running list of things you have tried that did not work out. Looking at this list will remind you that you have a 100% survival rate for failure. It will become a badge of honor, a testament to the fact that you are a person who lives in the arena, not a critic who sits safely in the stands. The journey out of the paralysis of fear is a journey of 1,000 small steps. It is not about one grand, heroic leap. It is about the small, daily, and often unglamorous choice to act. It is about choosing the discomfort of action over the false comfort of inaction. It is about collecting evidence that you are more capable and more resilient than you think. The fear will probably never vanish completely. I still feel a jolt of it before I give a speech or try something new, but it no longer has control. It is like an annoying passenger in your car who is constantly yelling that you are going to crash. You can hear the voice, you can acknowledge it, but you are the one with your hands on the steering wheel. You are the one who decides where you are going. Your new life, the one where you are free to be yourself, to share your gifts and to chase your dreams, is waiting for you. It is not across an ocean. It is just on the other side of your fear. It is on the other side of one small, brave action. So, what is your level 1 fear? What is the lightest weight in your courage gym? Identify it right now. And then, I want you to schedule it. Put it in your calendar. And when the time comes, I want you to take a breath and begin the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Your future self is waiting to thank you. Chapter 9. Building your own damn armor. Self-worth. Imagine 2 warriors preparing for battle. The first warrior is covered from head to toe in magnificent gleaming armor. It is elaborately decorated, embossed with symbols of victories past and polished to a mirror shine. It is designed to impress, to intimidate, to scream to the world, "Look at me, look at my accomplishments, fear my reputation." This armor is heavy, cumbersome, and incredibly fragile. A single dent from a stray arrow would mar its perfection. A splash of mud would tarnish its shine. This warrior's entire sense of safety relies on this external shell remaining flawless. Underneath it all, they are terrified, because they know that their armor is just a performance, and that a strong enough blow will shatter it, leaving them exposed and defenseless. The second warrior approaches the battlefield differently. They wear simple, practical leather armor, but something about them radiates an unshakable strength. Their power does not come from their external covering. It comes from their core. Their muscles are strong, their posture is solid, their mind is clear. They have trained their body and their spirit to be resilient, to be able to take a hit, to fall down, and to get back up again. A blow that would dent the first warrior's shiny plate mail is absorbed by the second warrior's conditioned strength. A fall that would shatter the first warrior's pride is just a stumble to the second, who simply rises, dusts themselves off, and continues the fight. For most of our lives, we are taught to be the first warrior. We are taught to build a heavy, fragile suit of armor called self-esteem. We spend all our time polishing it, collecting accolades to weld onto it, and desperately hoping that no one will ever hit it hard enough to see the frightened, insecure person hiding inside. This chapter is about learning to be the second warrior. It is about taking off the crushing weight of that performance armor and beginning the real work. The internal training that builds true, unshakable, and authentic inner strength. This is not armor you wear. It is armor you become. This is the process of forging your self-worth. Before we can begin to build it, we must first understand the profound and often misunderstood difference between self-esteem and self-worth. This is one of the most important distinctions you will ever make in your journey to freedom, because society relentlessly and deliberately confuses the two, and that confusion is a primary source of our anxiety. Self-esteem is conditional. It is external. It is the grade you get on your life's report card at any given moment. It is based on your performance, your achievements, your successes, and the approval you receive from other people. When you get a promotion, your self-esteem goes up. When you get 100 likes on a photo, your self-esteem goes up. When someone pays you a compliment, your self-esteem goes up. It feels good, it is a temporary high, but because it is conditional, it is also incredibly volatile. It is a house of cards built on a shaky table. When you get criticized at work, your self-esteem plummets. When your post gets ignored, your self-esteem plummets. When you get rejected, your self-esteem plummets. A life dedicated to the pursuit of self-esteem is a life of endless, exhausting performance. You become a human doing instead of a human being. You are constantly on a treadmill, chasing the next hit of validation, the next achievement, the next compliment, just to feel okay about yourself. It is the ultimate addiction, and the dealers are the very people whose opinions you are trying to stop caring about. It forces you to live life in a defensive crouch, terrified of failure, terrified of criticism, terrified of making a mistake, because any of these things could deal a fatal blow to your fragile sense of self. It is the shiny, heavy armor of the first warrior. It looks impressive from a distance, but it is a prison of fear. Self-worth, on the other hand, is unconditional. It is internal. It is unshakable. Self-worth is the deep, quiet, and profound knowing that you are valuable simply because you exist. It has nothing to do with your job title, your bank account, your relationship status, or how many followers you have. It is not something you earn. It is something you are. It is your inherent birthright value as a human being. It is the core of who you are, separate from all your accomplishments and all your failures. Self-worth says, even if I lose my job, even if I make a huge mistake, even if this person rejects me, even if I fail spectacularly, my fundamental worth as a person remains intact. It is the bedrock beneath the shifting sands of life. It is the quiet strength of the second warrior. It is the armor that cannot be dented because it is not a shell. It is your very being. A person with high self-esteem but low self-worth is often a very successful but deeply anxious individual. They might be a CEO, a top surgeon, or a famous artist, but they are terrified. They are one bad business deal, one failed surgery, or one negative review away from a complete emotional collapse because their entire identity is fused with their external success. Conversely, a person with high self-worth might not have a long list of impressive achievements, but they move through the world with a sense of ease and resilience. They can take risks because they know that their worth is not on the line. They can handle criticism because they know that another person's opinion cannot diminish their intrinsic value. They can be authentic because they are no longer trying to perform in exchange for a feeling of worthiness. They already know they are worthy. The world does not want you to have self-worth. An entire global economy is built on you having low self-worth. The beauty industry needs you to feel unworthy without its products. The luxury goods industry needs you to feel unworthy without its status symbols. The self-help industry, in many ways, needs you to feel that you are broken and need fixing. True self-worth is a radical act of rebellion. It is a quiet revolution that takes place within your own heart. It is the ultimate liberation, because when you no longer need the world to tell you that you are okay, you are finally free to be who you are and to live the life you want, not the life you think you are supposed to have. So, how do we build it? If self-worth is not earned through achievement, where does it come from? It comes from practice. It is a muscle that you have likely let atrophy for your entire life, and now we are going to start a gentle, consistent training program to build it back up. This is not about puffing yourself up with empty affirmations. This is about taking small, concrete actions that prove your worth to the most important person in the world, yourself. We are now entering the Forge, the workshop where you will begin to craft your inner armor. There are 4 foundational pillars to this work. The first and most important pillar of self-worth is the practice of self-integrity. Integrity is a word we usually associate with how we treat others. We think of it as being honest and keeping our promises to other people. But the most important form of integrity, the form that builds self-worth, is how you treat yourself. Self-integrity is the act of keeping the promises you make to yourself. It is the foundation of self-trust, and self-trust is the bedrock of self-worth. Think about it in the context of another person. How do you come to trust someone? You trust them when their words and their actions align consistently over time. If a friend says they will meet you for lunch and they show up, your trust in them increases a little. If they do it again and again, your trust becomes solid. If, however, they say they will be there and they consistently cancel at the last minute or forget, your trust erodes. You learn that their word means nothing. You cannot rely on them. The exact same dynamic is happening inside you every single day. Every time you make a small promise to yourself and you break it, you erode your self-trust and damage your self-worth. You say, "I'm going to wake up at 7 tomorrow morning to go for a walk." Then when the alarm goes off, you hit the snooze button 5 times and you do not go. This is not just a lazy moment. It is a small act of self-betrayal. You are sending a powerful subconscious message to yourself. My own word does not matter. My commitments to myself are not important. I cannot rely on myself. You say, "I am going to stop checking my work email after dinner." Then at 9 o'clock you find yourself scrolling through your inbox. Another broken promise. Another message that says, "I am not in control of my own actions." You say, "I am going to start that online course tonight," and then you spend 3 hours watching Netflix instead. Each of these seemingly insignificant moments is a small crack in your foundation. When this happens hundreds, even thousands of times over the years, is it any wonder you do not trust yourself? Is it any wonder you look outside for validation when the source of validation inside you is completely unreliable? The path to rebuilding this trust is simple, but not easy. It begins with making and keeping one ridiculously small promise to yourself. I call this the One Small Promise Challenge. Your task is to pick one promise that is so small, so easy, that it is almost impossible to fail. Do not start with, "I'm going to go to the gym for an hour every day." That is a recipe for failure if you are starting from zero. Start with something like, "I will drink 1 glass of water as soon as I wake up." Or, "I will do 5 push-ups before my morning shower." Or, "I will put my shoes away when I get home instead of leaving them by the door." It needs to be an action, something you can definitively check off as done. For 1 week, your only job is to keep that one tiny promise. Every time you do it, I want you to pause for a moment and acknowledge it. Silently say to yourself, I did it. I kept my word to myself. You are, in effect, making a small deposit in your self-trust account. At first, it will feel silly, but something profound is happening in your brain. You are building a new neural pathway. You are creating a new identity, the identity of a person who is reliable. After a week of successfully keeping your tiny promise, you can add another one. Maybe this week you will drink your glass of water and you will also make your bed. You keep these 2 promises for a week, then you add a third. You are building your self-integrity muscle with small, manageable repetitions. Over time, these small promises will build a foundation of self-trust so solid that you will be able to take on bigger promises, like writing that book, or training for that race, or starting that business. You will believe you can do it, not because of some mystical confidence, but because you have a long documented history of proving to yourself that when you say you will do something, you do it. This is the root of all self-worth. The second pillar in the forge is the art of self-compassion. If self-integrity is about what you do, self-compassion is about how you treat yourself when you do not do it perfectly. For most of us, the voice in our head, our inner narrator, is a relentless, merciless critic. It is the voice we explored in the last chapter, the prosecutor in the court of our minds. It is the voice that calls you an idiot when you make a mistake, lazy when you feel tired, and a failure when you fall short of a goal. This inner critic is the single greatest destroyer of self-worth. You cannot build a sense of inner value while a demolition crew is working inside your own head 24 hours a day. We must learn to fire that critic and hire a new narrator, one who speaks the language of self-compassion. Self-compassion is not the same as self-pity. Self-pity is sitting in a puddle of your own misery saying, "Poor me." Self-compassion is not about letting yourself off the hook or making excuses. It is not about saying, "It does not matter that I failed." Self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and understanding that you would offer to a dear friend who was going through a difficult time. It is about bringing warmth instead of cold judgment to your own suffering and your own imperfections. Dr. Kristin Neff, a leading researcher in this field, has identified 3 core components of self-compassion. We can think of them as the 3 ingredients in the recipe for a kinder inner world. The first ingredient is self-kindness. This is the simple act of being gentle and understanding with yourself, rather than harsh and critical. When you fail or make a mistake, instead of beating yourself up, you offer yourself words of warmth and comfort. The second ingredient is a sense of common humanity. This is the recognition that everyone suffers, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone is imperfect. The inner critic loves to isolate us. It tells us, "You are the only one who is this screwed up." A sense of common humanity reminds us that our struggles do not make us weird or broken. They make us human. It connects us to others in our shared experience of the messy, beautiful, and often difficult journey of life. The third ingredient is mindfulness. This is the ability to observe your negative thoughts and emotions without being consumed by them. It is about holding your pain in a state of balanced awareness, without ignoring it, but also without exaggerating it. It is seeing the thought, "I am a failure," and recognizing it as just a thought, a passing event in your mind, rather than an absolute truth. These 3 ingredients sound lovely, but how do we actually practice them? One of the most powerful exercises is what I call the compassionate friend technique. The next time you find yourself in the grip of your inner critic, when you are berating yourself for a mistake or a perceived flaw, I want you to stop and take out your notebook. First, write down exactly what the inner critic is saying to you. Write down all the mean, judgmental, and harsh things you are telling yourself. Second, I want you to think of a dear friend whom you love and respect. Imagine that this friend comes to you with the exact same problem, feeling the exact same way. Third, I want you to write down word for word what you would say to that friend. What would your tone be? Would you call them an idiot? Or would you be warm, supportive, and encouraging? Would you remind them of their strengths? Would you put the situation in perspective for them? Would you tell them that one mistake does not define them? Write it all out. Finally, I want you to read what you wrote. Read the words you would offer to your friend and now offer them to yourself. This is the voice of self-compassion. It is already inside you. You just have a habit of only directing it outward. You must practice turning that same kindness inward. The third pillar in our forge is the inventory of self-acknowledgement. Our brains have a built-in feature that is terrible for self-worth. It is called the negativity bias. For evolutionary reasons we have already discussed, our brains are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. We can receive 10 compliments and 1 criticism. And what do we obsess over for the rest of the day? The criticism. This means that we have a wildly distorted view of ourselves. We have a detailed, high-definition catalogue of all our failures, mistakes, and flaws, while our successes, our acts of courage, and our positive qualities are barely even registered. To build self-worth, we must consciously and deliberately counteract this bias. We have to become meticulous collectors of our own positive evidence. I want you to get a large glass jar and a stack of small slips of paper. This will be your win jar. Or if you prefer a digital version, create a dedicated note on your phone or a document on your computer called My Win Journal. Every single day, before you go to sleep, your job is to write down at least one win from your day and add it to the jar or the journal. What constitutes a win? This is the crucial part. We are not just talking about big achievements like getting a promotion or running a marathon. We are redefining what a win is. A win is any moment where you acted in alignment with the person you want to be. Did you keep one of your small promises to yourself? That is a win. Did you choose to be self-compassionate instead of self-critical for even one moment? That is a win. Did you take a small brave action from your courage gym hierarchy? That is a massive win. Did you set a small boundary? That is a win. Did you choose to eat a healthy meal? That is a win. Did you speak kindly to someone? That is a win. We are logging evidence of our character in action. At the end of each week, or whenever you are feeling particularly low or full of self-doubt, your job is to open the jar and read the slips of paper. Read your journal entries. You will be holding in your hands a physical, tangible record of your own goodness, your own courage, and your own progress. You will be looking at a mountain of evidence that directly contradicts the story your inner critic is trying to tell you. You cannot argue with the data. This practice, over time, rewires your brain to start noticing the good. It balances the scales, giving you a much more realistic and compassionate view of who you are. The fourth and final pillar is the declaration of self-ownership. This is the most advanced and perhaps the most profound practice of all. It is the act of taking ownership of your entire story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is about embracing all the parts of yourself that you have been taught to hide, to be ashamed of, or to disown. Your self-worth cannot be complete if it is contingent on you being only your best self. True, unshakable self-worth comes from the ability to love and accept yourself even at your worst. Many of us carry a deep sense of shame about parts of our past. We are ashamed of mistakes we have made, failures we have endured, or parts of our personality that we deem flawed. We spend an enormous amount of energy trying to run from these parts of ourselves, trying to pretend they do not exist. But what we resist persists. The shame only grows stronger in the dark. Self-ownership is the act of turning on the light. It is about looking at these parts of your story and choosing to integrate them, not as sources of shame, but as essential parts of the journey that made you who you are today. I want you to try a journaling exercise I call My Story, My Strength. I want you to choose one thing about yourself or your past that you often feel shame or insecurity about. It could be a past business failure, a difficult breakup, a physical feature you dislike, or a personality trait you see as a weakness like being too sensitive. First, I want you to write about this thing from the old perspective of shame. Write down all the negative stories you tell yourself about it. Then on a new page, I want you to consciously look for the other side of the story. You are going to look for the hidden strength, the lesson learned, the resilience gained. For the business failure, the strength might be the incredible lessons you learned about entrepreneurship or the resilience you developed in the face of adversity. For the difficult breakup, the lesson might be a profound understanding of what you need in a partner, or the discovery of your own ability to heal a broken heart. For the physical feature, maybe it has taught you to value qualities other than appearance in yourself and others. For being too sensitive, you can reframe it as being deeply empathetic, intuitive, and creative. You are not pretending the negative aspects do not exist. You are simply choosing to expand the narrative. You are choosing to see the whole picture. You are declaring that every part of your story has value. This practice of taking the things you are most ashamed of and finding the strength within them is the ultimate act of self-acceptance. It is you saying to the universe, "This is me, all of it, and all of it is worthy." Building your self-worth is the single most important project of your life. It is the work that underlies everything else we have talked about in this book. When you have a solid core of self-worth, you are less afraid of judgment. Because another person's opinion has no power to define you, you are more willing to take brave actions because your worth is not tied to the outcome. You are better at setting boundaries because you believe you are worthy of being treated with respect. This is your real armor. It is not heavy. It is not for show. It is a quiet, powerful internal resilience that allows you to move through the world with grace, courage, and authenticity. It is not something you will achieve in a week or a month. It is a lifelong practice. It is a daily choice to keep your promises, to speak to yourself with kindness, to acknowledge your goodness, and to own your whole story. Begin the work today. The warrior within you is waiting. Chapter 10. The Unapology. Mastering Boundaries. There is a word in the English language that is only 2 letters long, yet it is one of the hardest words for many of us to say. The word is no. For those of us raised to be good, to be helpful, to be accommodating, this tiny word can feel like a hand grenade. We imagine that if we were to pull the pin and say it out loud, it would explode the situation, damaging our relationships, hurting people's feelings, and marking us forever as selfish, unkind, or difficult. And so, we avoid it at all costs. Instead of no, we say, "Let me see if I can move some things around," when we know our schedule is already overflowing. We say, "Sure, I can help with that," when we are already drowning in our own responsibilities. We say yes to invitations we want to decline, to requests we want to refuse, and to opinions we do not share. We become a yes machine, and with every reluctant yes, we feel a small piece of ourselves die. Their slow, simmering resentment begins to build in our hearts, a toxic sludge of frustration directed at the very people we are trying so hard to please. We end up feeling like a doormat, angry that people are wiping their feet on us, while forgetting that we are the one who lay down in front of the door in the first place. This is the painful, exhausting reality of a life lived without boundaries. And today, this is where it ends. This chapter is your official graduation from the school of people-pleasing. We are going to learn the art and science of setting clear, kind, and firm boundaries. We are going to dismantle the fear that surrounds them. And you are going to discover the most liberating paradox of human relationships, that clear boundaries do not push people away. They draw the right people closer. They are the foundation of all healthy, respectful, and sustainable connections. They are the ultimate expression of the self-worth you have been so diligently building. First, let's completely redefine what a boundary is. We are conditioned to think of boundaries as hostile walls we build to keep people out. We think of them as acts of rejection. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. A boundary is not a wall. A boundary is more like a fence around your yard. The fence clearly marks where your property begins and ends. It lets your neighbors know which lawn is theirs to mow and which lawn is yours. A healthy fence has a gate, and you are the one who gets to decide who you let in, when you let them in, and how you expect them to behave once they are on your property. The fence is not there to be mean to your neighbors. It is there to create a space that is safe, manageable, and yours to cultivate. Without the fence, you would not know what was yours to care for. Your neighbors might start parking their cars on your lawn, or letting their dogs dig up your flower beds, not because they are bad people, but because there is no clear line. A life without boundaries is a life where your property, which is your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being, is constantly being trespassed upon. Setting a boundary is simply the act of clearly, calmly, and respectfully communicating to others where your fence line is. It is not selfish. It is an act of profound self-respect. It is you saying, "This is me. This is my space, my energy, my time. I value it, and I need you to value it too if you want to be in my life." It is the only way to protect your inner resources from being depleted by the endless demands of the outside world. Before we learn how to build our fences, we must first understand why our property has been wide open for so long. Why do we fear boundaries so much? The fear is rooted in the same childhood conditioning we have already explored. As children, many of us learned that our safety and sense of belonging were contingent on being compliant. Saying no to a parent or a teacher was often met with disapproval, punishment, or the withdrawal of affection. We learned that a good child is a yes child. This gets wired into our nervous system. So, as adults, when we contemplate setting a boundary, our caveman brain sounds the alarm. It screams, "Danger! You are breaking the rules. You are going to be rejected. You will be cast out of the tribe." The fear of abandonment feels life-threatening, even when the person we are saying no to is just a co-worker asking for a small favor. This core fear splinters into several related anxieties. We fear being seen as selfish. We have been taught that a good person always puts others first. We fear conflict. We would rather feel the slow burn of our own resentment than the acute discomfort of someone else's displeasure. We fear disappointing others. We have been trained to be helpers and fixers, and we feel a deep sense of guilt if we are not constantly meeting the needs of those around us. These fears combine to create the perfect storm of people-pleasing. The key to overcoming this is to realize that the price of avoiding these fears is far too high. The cost of having no boundaries is your own life. It is the slow erosion of your identity, the burnout of your energy, and the poisoning of your relationships with resentment. A reluctant yes is a lie, and lies, no matter how well-intentioned, always create distance. A clear and honest no, on the other hand, creates respect. To begin building our boundaries, we must first survey our property to see where the biggest trespasses are occurring. We need a boundary blueprint. Let's identify the 4 main types of boundaries you need in your life. The first type is a time boundary. This is about protecting your time and energy from the demands of others. A violation of a time boundary is when your boss emails you at 10 at night and expects an immediate response. It is when a friend consistently runs 30 minutes late, showing no respect for your schedule. It is when a family member calls you and expects you to drop everything to talk for an hour, even when you are in the middle of something. The second type is an emotional boundary. This is about protecting your emotional well-being. It is the understanding that you are not responsible for other people's feelings, and they are not responsible for yours. A violation of an emotional boundary is when someone blames you for their anger or sadness. It is when someone overshares deeply personal or traumatic information without your consent, treating you like an unpaid therapist. It is when someone in your life is a chronic complainer, dumping all their negativity on you and draining your emotional energy. The third type is a physical boundary. This relates to your personal space, your body, and your privacy. This can range from someone standing too close to you when they talk, to a relative who insists on hugging you when you do not want to be touched, to someone borrowing your things without asking, or looking through your phone without your permission. The fourth type is a communication boundary. This is about how people speak to you. A violation of this boundary can be someone yelling at you, calling you names, giving you unsolicited advice about your life choices, or asking intrusive and inappropriate questions about personal topics like your finances, your sex life, or your health. Now, it is time for your boundary audit. Take out your notebook and create 4 sections, 1 for each of these boundary types. Under each heading, I want you to brainstorm and write down any situation in your life with any person where you consistently feel drained, resentful, angry, or taken for granted. Who is trespassing on your property, and how are they doing it? Under time boundaries, you might write, "My manager expects me to be available after work hours," or "My sister always asks me to babysit at the last minute." Under emotional boundaries, you might write, "My friend Pat uses me as a dumping ground for all their problems, but never asks about my life." Or, "My father makes passive-aggressive comments about my career choices." Under physical boundaries, you might write, "My aunt always hugs me too tightly and I hate it." Under communication boundaries, you might write, My partner sometimes raises their voice at me during arguments. This audit is your map. It shows you exactly where your fences need to be built or repaired. Looking at this list may be upsetting, but it is also empowering. You are no longer a victim of these situations. You are an architect who is about to make some much-needed renovations. Now we move to the practical part, the Boundary Builder's Toolkit. You have your blueprint. Now you need the tools and materials to build the fence. The first and most important tool is the script shop. The biggest reason we do not set boundaries is that we do not know what to say. We fumble for the words, we get flustered, and we end up caving. The script shop is about preparing and practicing simple, clear, and non-confrontational phrases that you can have ready in your back pocket. The key to a good boundary script is that it is simple, it is firm, and it is about you, not them. It is an I statement, not a you statement. You are not accusing them. You are simply stating your own limits. Let's create a phrasebook for some common scenarios. For saying no to a request for your time. Instead of a long apologetic excuse, try a simple and powerful statement. Thank you for the invitation, but I will not be able to make it. Thank you for thinking of me, but that does not work for me right now. I appreciate you asking, but my answer is no. Notice that none of these phrases include the words, I am sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. Saying no to something you do not want to do is an act of self-care. They also do not include a justification. You do not owe anyone a detailed explanation for your no. A simple, polite refusal is sufficient. For setting a boundary around communication, let's say a family member is giving you unsolicited advice. I appreciate that you are trying to help, but I'm not looking for advice on this right now. Or if someone is asking intrusive questions, I'm not comfortable talking about my finances. Or if someone raises their voice, I feel uncomfortable when you raise your voice. I am happy to continue this conversation when we can both speak calmly. For setting an emotional boundary, if someone is dumping their negativity on you, it sounds like you are going through a really tough time. I only have about 5 more minutes to talk right now, but I'm hoping things get better for you. This sets a time limit and compassionately disengages you. If someone is blaming you for their feelings, I understand that you are feeling angry, but I am not responsible for your emotions. I want you to go back to your boundary audit list. For each situation you identified, I want you to write a script. Craft a simple, clear, respectful sentence that you could use to establish a boundary in that situation. Practice saying these scripts out loud. Say them in front of a mirror. The first time you say one in a real situation, it will feel awkward. Your voice might shake. That is okay. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. You are building muscle memory. The second tool in our kit is for when you have set the boundary and you are hit by a tidal wave of your own guilt. Managing the guilt and the pushback is a critical skill. The guilt you feel is a withdrawal symptom. You're addicted to people-pleasing, and when you stop, your system screams in protest. The guilt is the feeling of you breaking an old, unspoken family or social rule, the rule that says, your needs come last. When you feel this guilt, I want you to do 2 things. First, acknowledge it without judgment. Say to yourself, there is the guilt, I knew it would show up. This is a sign that I am doing something brave and new. Do not fight the feeling, just let it be there. Second, I want you to remind yourself of your why. Reconnect with your core values. Remind yourself that a no to this request is a yes to your own peace, your own health, or your own core relationships. The guilt will lessen over time as your nervous system learns that setting a boundary does not lead to catastrophe. Now for the pushback. When you start changing the rules of a relationship, people will test the new fence. This is normal. It is called an extinction burst in psychology. When a behavior used to work and it suddenly stops working, the person will often try the old behavior even harder before they give up. If your mother is used to you dropping everything when she calls, and you suddenly say, "Mom, I can't talk right now, I will call you back this evening," she might push back. She might say, "Oh, so you are too busy for your own mother now." This is the test. Your job is not to get angry. Your job is not to justify your boundary. Your job is to calmly and firmly repeat it, like a broken record. You can say, "I love you very much and I will call you tonight." And then you end the conversation, you hold the line. When people learn that the fence is solid and that you are not going to move it, they will eventually stop pushing on it. The third tool is the gradual rollout. Just like in our courage gym, you do not start with the heaviest weight. Do not start by setting a major boundary with the most difficult person in your life. Start small. Pick a low-stakes situation from your audit list. Maybe it is saying no to a coworker who wants you to contribute $5 to a birthday gift for someone you barely know. Say your script. Thanks, but I will pass this time. See what happens. Most likely, they will just say, okay, and move on. You have just had a successful rep. You have logged a small win. This builds your confidence to take on a slightly more challenging boundary next time. You will work your way up your hierarchy, from the easy wins to the more challenging conversations. Let's be clear. Setting boundaries is not a guarantee that you will never have conflict or that no one will ever be upset with you. Some people, particularly those who have benefited most from your lack of boundaries, may not like the new you. They may call you selfish. They may get angry. They may even leave your life, and while that may be painful in the short term, in the long term, it is a gift. You are filtering your life. You are creating space for people who respect you, who honor your limits, and who are willing to engage with you in a healthy and reciprocal way. You are trading relationships based on obligation and resentment for relationships based on authentic connection and mutual respect. A life with healthy boundaries is a life of freedom and integrity. It is a life where you are the master of your own time and energy. It is a life where your relationships are cleaner, more honest, and more loving, because they are free from the poison of unspoken resentment. When you say yes, people know you truly mean it. When you give of yourself, it is from a place of genuine generosity, not grudging obligation. You will feel lighter, more energized, and more authentically yourself than you ever thought possible. Your homework is to begin. Do your audit, write your scripts, and then take a deep breath and set one small boundary. Build one small section of your fence. The peace and self-respect you will find on your own property are worth every moment of discomfort it takes to get there. Your life is your yard. It is time to start tending your own garden. I have just one final thing to say. If this book has helped you, if these ideas have resonated with you, the journey does not have to end here. This is a conversation, and it continues on my YouTube channel, Audio Waves. Subscribe to join a community of people who are all committed to the brave work of living a life on their own terms.